morning. Welcome to the July 18, 2023 land use meeting of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, as we come before you today, we thank you for who you are, and we ask you for your blessing on this board today, every single person, every commissioner, everyone that works in Hillsborough County. A special blessing on everyone, and also everyone that lives in Hillsborough County, a special blessing. And we pray for our military men and women, for your protection over every one of them serving here and around the world. And we pray for every first responder for their protection. And we just pray for that it is well with everyone in Hillsborough County and their spirit, soul, and bodies and everything that concerns them. In your holy name, amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Mr. Grady, would you like to review changes to the agenda?
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Grady, Hillsborough County Development Services. We do have one change in the agenda regarding the order of the agenda. It's regarding G1A and G1B. That's going to be heard in the agenda after item F1. So again, G1A and G1B will be heard after item F1. They only changed the published agenda. I'll now go through the published withdrawals, continuances, remands beginning on page 3 of the agenda. Item A1, rezoning PD 18-0996. Staff is requesting this item be continued to the August 8th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A2, PRS 23-0136. This application out of order to be heard and has been continued to the September 12th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A3, DRI 23-0195. This application has been continued by the applicant as a matter of right to the August 8th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A4, PRS application 23-0210. This application is being continued by the applicant as a matter of right to the August 8th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A5, PRS 23-0299. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 12th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A6, DRI 23-0335. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 12th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A7, PRS 23-0372. This application has been continued by the applicant as a matter of right to the August 8th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A8, PRS 23-0374. This application is withdrawn by the applicant. Item A9, PRS 23-0382. This application is out of order to be heard and has been continued to the August 8th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A10, PRS application 23-0440. This application has been withdrawn by the applicant. Item A11, PRS 23-0508. This application is out of order to be heard and has been continued to the August 8th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. And item A12, PRS application 23-0510. This application has been continued by the applicant as a matter of right to the August 8th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. And item A13, vacation petition 22-0019. Staff is requesting this item be continued to the August 8th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. That concludes all changes to the agenda.
Move approval.
Got a motion to approve the changes by Commissioner Kemp. Second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you. Can we have a motion to approve the consent?
So moved.
Motion to approve the consent agenda, Commissioner Kemp. Second, Commissioner Cohen. If there are no questions, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, so anyone is here for a B item, your application has been approved. At this time, if anyone's planning on testifying today, would you please stand, raise your right hand so the clerk can swear you in?
Good morning. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Grady, you want to introduce the first item?
The first item is agenda item C1, vacating petition 23-0007. Carrie Allen with Real Estate Services will present this item.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Carrie Allen, Facilities Management and Real Estate Services Department. Item C1 is vacate ID V23-0007. This is a petition by SREG, Sunset Land LLC, to vacate a portion of an unimproved platted public right-of-way recorded in the plat of East North Tampa, Plat Book 1, page 128. The petitioner has submitted this request to create a contiguous parcel and replat the property for a residential subdivision. The platted right-of-way immediately east of the vacate area has previously been vacated. The proposed vacate area is generally located east of North US Highway 41 and north of Sunset Lane in Lutz, and consists of approximately 23,087 square feet or 0.53 acres. We did receive one reviewer objection from the Planning Commission. They object to the vacating of the eastern portion of the vacate area because those rights-of-way have potential connectivity and neighborhood circulation through the existing subdivision. All 11 county internal departments, as well as utility providers, have raised no objections to this request. Staff also received objections from 2 neighboring property owners who object to the vacating on the basis that there is wildlife in the wetlands area and any development would destroy natural drainage and increase traffic. County staff has reviewed these concerns and determined that any changes to the wetlands, drainage, or traffic would be reviewed during the site development process and have no effect on this vacating request. Staff makes note of the Planning Commission's finding that the proposed vacating is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. However, based on all of the county departments having no current or foreseeable need for this subject right-of-way, staff recommends approval of this petition request.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to this item? Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tyler Hudson, and my address is 400 North Ashley Drive. With me here this morning is Sebring Sierra, who is the owner of all the property surrounding this right-of-way, as well as Chris McNeil, our civil engineer. Out of respect for the folks in red and blue that are here, we're really going to have a much shorter presentation. I just want to show one map on the overhead. So this is actually one of the oldest plats in Hillsborough County. It's from 1915. Since the 1950s, you'll see in orange, this county commission has steadily vacated right away. Much of it was to accommodate Lutz K-8, which is the area in turquoise you'll see. And while Hillsborough County Public Schools is not traditionally a reviewing agency for these types of right-of-way vacatings, we did ask for their objection. They have none. Mike Williams has said there's really no need for this roadway, and so we respectfully request your approval. Happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else want to speak to the item? Not, can we have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second. Motion to approve, Commissioner Myers, second, Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Kemp.
I just had one question. I just wanted to understand why the Planning Commission thought that this could be, in some way, provide some connectivity.
Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. Thank you for your question. In this review, if Carrie, would you mind putting up, or actually Tyler, anyone, the map that was in the backup that showed the yellow crosshatch and the blue, so you can see the differences between the two areas? Is this the map? That's perfect. Thank you. The yellow crosshatch area is west of 4th Street, and due to the environmental conditions that are currently existing, and the fact that the green portion is what we're supporting to maintain and not be vacated, that does provide some potential future connectivity in the area. But we can see that the yellow portion, because of the environmentally sensitive area, might not be the best area to keep for a roadway possibility. But in order to facilitate the mobility section policies regarding connectivity and the future land use element policies regarding connectivity, we felt that the green portion could potentially connect in the future to provide some connectivity to the neighborhood park and school in the area. So therefore, we objected to that portion of the vacating. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I worry about these vacations so much when I don't especially understand necessarily the future impacts of them. And while I'm okay with the other vacation, which all parties have agreed on, I guess at this point, did you want to explain something else about the relationship?
If I may, this isn't being done speculatively. We have filed a plat with Hillsborough County, The zoning here would allow about 45 housing units. It's 45 acres. We're proposing just 17 home sites, which we think is consistent with the Lutz community plan. And so we have a very respectful, but I think fairly firm disagreement with the Planning Commission on the connectivity. We think that that plat, which will be reviewed by all these agencies, will ensure there's adequate access. We just don't think that, you see on screen, apologies for the crude hand drawing, but the piece that runs north-south on the left is what I don't think anyone disagrees with. It's the piece on the right. And again, we believe that we can afford adequate access to this home subdivision southerly through Sunset Lane. But this is all private property, so we just don't envision a scenario where there's a boardwalk or something like that connecting to a park, because again, it is private property that entirely surrounds it. And I think this vacating request is consistent with I think it's 42 total vacatings that have occurred in this plat since the mid-1950s.
Yeah, it did admittedly look quite extensive, what had been vacated. I hate to lose grid and connectivity. I guess I'll just, with the modified vacation, I'll just put up a substitute motion at this time to kind of vacate according to what the Planning Commission is agreeable with. And
I have a substitute motion by Commissioner Kemp. Do we have a second? All right, it dies for lack of a second. Commissioner Owen, do you want to speak to the motion?
Well, no, I just, a question as to could you pull up the map, the original one with the green and yellow, just to clarify, because that plat you just showed is kind of new to me as well. So as to connectivity, as far as a roadway that you're going to propose to develop, will it go through that green, any of that green space area in green, or could you just to touch on what the plans are there?
Sure. Mm-hmm. So you can see that the area in red, I'm not sure if I can zoom, the areas in red up here, again, this portion, I think no one has a qualm, with vacating. It's the area here where Planning Commission had some reservations about that preventing connectivity. But we respectfully think, given the low density that we're proposing for this area, this single road is more than adequate connectivity. I think this roadway reconfiguration, which again was proposed in 1915 by I think a gentleman named C.E. Henderson, it anticipated 6 to 7 units per acre. The zoning for this is 1 unit per acre, and we're proposing 17 units over 45 acres. So again, understand theoretically the need for roadway, for street grids and all that. It just doesn't make sense for this property anymore, because for going on 70 years now, this commission has viewed this particular little piece of Lutz as being more appropriate for much lower density, not grid style development. Because recall that the Lutz community plan actually embraces flag lots, which is usually tough to reconcile with a grid configuration. So we understand, and we've talked a lot with Planning Commission. It's not for lack of communicating. We just have a little bit of a disagreement. And I would respectfully think that on the scales, it tips towards being consistent with the prior vacatings. And so we would ask that you approve this application as filed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Cohen, and then we'll go to vote.
The reason I think it should be approved as filed is because ultimately the Planning Commission raised these objections, but the county staff didn't agree and chose not to raise the same objections. And I thought that was dispositive, given that's ultimately who would make the final judgment on need of the connectivity.
All right, thank you. All right, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you. Mr. Grady?
The next item is agenda item E1. It's PRS application 23-0381. This is a minor modification of a 4.2 acre planned development located at the southwest corner of Simmons Loop and US 301. And again, if HTV could turn the Elmo on. Again, The request for this parcel located in the southwest corner of 301 and Simmons Loop Road is to modify access points. Again, a close-up of it. Michelle, if you can go to the site plans. Right now, the project is permitted an access point on US 301 and 2 access points on Simmons Loop, with the easternmost access being a right-in only. The request is to remove the access to US 301 and the right-in only access point. FDOT has indicated they would not be supportive of an access onto US 301, and the right-in only onto Simmons Loop is sort of repetitive of the full access point to the west, which would also provide right-in access. Cross access is also being provided both to the west and the south. Therefore, staff is recommending approval and available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, is the applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Clayton Bricklemeyer with Hillward Henderson, representing the applicant, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard. You all obviously have bigger fish to fry. We're removing 2 access points here, no use change or anything else along those lines. We're available for questions. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? All right, can we have a motion? Or Commissioner Owen.
Yes, real quick, could I have one question? So so we're going to have the access point on Simmons Loop, correct? Am I seeing
Correct,
that right?
yes.
Okay.
We currently have, the current use has 2 access points on Simmons Loop, and there's a curb cut shown onto 301. FDOT said we weren't getting that and asked us to take it off. And then the eastern Simmons Loop access doesn't meet spacing at all and doesn't align with the project to the north.
Makes sense, yeah. And there was no opposition to this, right, Mr. Wormley?
None that we're aware of, no staff review or agency review.
Move for approval.
Second.
We got a motion to approve. Commissioner Owen, second. Commissioner Wostel. No other comments. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
E2.
The next item is agenda item A2. It's PRS application 23-0458. This is a request for a minor modification to a 0.51 acre parcel PD located in the Riverview area east of 301 and east of the intersection of Duncan and 301. It's an existing development. As you can see by the aerial, most of the project is built out, but there's one remaining building yet to be built, and the request is to increase the building height for that building from 20 to 34 feet. Staff did find this request approval and is recommending approval, and are available for any questions. Thank you.
Is the applicant here?
Good morning, Commissioners. David Wright, President of TSP Companies. Address is P.O. Box 273-417, Tampa, Florida 33688. This is also pretty straightforward, requesting an increase of the height of the rear building from 20 to 34 feet. This change would also provide future potential cross-access points to the properties to the north and south, which was not previously included in the PD, and also some potential improvements to the access to the property based on comments by FDOT. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Can we have a motion?
Second.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Kemp. Second, Commissioner Wostel. For no comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
E3.
Next item, agenda item E3, PRS 23-0502. This is a request for a minor modification to a plan development located, 158-acre plan development located at the northwest corner of the intersection of Causeway Blvd and US 301 with the Simmons Crosstown Expressway bounded on the north. Commissioners, the request for this is there's currently a requirement, a close-up aerial here, for a requirement for 5 sidewalks along the South 86th Street frontage for this project. The applicant is requesting to remove that requirement for the sidewalk based on constraints regarding site constraints with the ability to construct that sidewalk, including having to cross the creek, which is a floodway. Staff is recommending approval, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Is the applicant present? Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Jake Kramer, 401 East Jackson Street, number 2100. I have the pleasure of representing Colonnade Crosstown, which is the developer of this project. And I did also want to mention there's a second part of this request, which is to clarify the way the FAR works. We're working with the Expressway Authority to dedicate some land, and the way the FAR works right now, we would be penalized and not be able to build the project that was originally envisioned to that same size. We're only looking to build the project size that was approved, It's just the way the conditions were written, they're a little bit confusing right now. So we'd like to be able to work with this Expressway Authority, and our team is here if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? If not, can we have a motion? Come on down. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Do I need to say my name or anything?
Yes, just your name.
Michelle Junkel Horn. I'm in opposition because 86th Street is a very narrow road and it's highly traveled. And with the addition of the construction that's going on with the project, they have taken the fence all the way to the roadway. There is no access for anyone to walk on that side. They're walking on the west side of the street. There are no lights in that area, and it's heavily traveled with pedestrian traffic as well. Previously, there was a drainage ditch there with culverts for driveways, and it drained all the way to Delaney Creek. And the original plan said that there was going to be sidewalks and there was going to be drainage there. And now they're saying that they don't want to do this. I live directly across the street from the project, and they were also going to widen the bridge to accommodate the foot traffic. Since they've started the project, the numerous dump trucks that have gone over the bridge have damaged the bridge more than it already was, to the point that we weren't getting any attention from Hillsborough County. So we actually contacted FDOT. They had inspectors come out and request that they review the bridge for Hillsborough County, because you could actually see the water underneath the bridge when the dump trucks were going over it, because the bridge is cracking in the center. And they have pictures of this as well that they sent to the county, because their bridge inspectors came out and looked at it and requested it. But the bridge was supposed to have been widened for the additional traffic and the sidewalks. And again, that area is very dangerous. The traffic, the people that go through there at night, there's no lights, nobody ever wears reflective clothing, and there's no place for a sidewalk unless they take more land from my side of the street. And they've already taken enough of my land when they widened Delaney Creek for the 100-year flood plan. So they need to put their sidewalks there. That was what they originally intended with the project, and that's what was put in when they went to the county commission before with their site plan. So. Michelle Renee Junkel, Juncal -HORNE.
Thank you, ma'am. Is anyone else here in opposition? All right, the applicant has okay, I can't. Please come forward, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Sharon Allen, and I live at 1910 South 86th Street. It is right at the pond. There is not a security fence, and they need to do something about the bugs, the mosquitoes, the gnats. It's horrible. And it's a stale pond. It don't move. I don't know what's going to be done, but something has to be done. And that bridge is, I won't go over it. It is that scary to go over the bridge. And there is a barbed wire fence between me and the pond. And everybody knows in a pond there's a chance of gators. And they can just come into my yard. I need something that will protect my property line. That's pretty well all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else? Good morning, sir.
Morning. My name is David Horn. The bridge in question on 86th Street has been deteriorating for quite some time, and we were told that this bridge was supposed to have been replaced some 25 years ago. Since they started construction, a lot of the ground just on the approach of the bridge is starting to cavitate and collapse, making it a serious problem. Same on both sides of that bridge now. And the cracks opened up, and like Michelle has said, you can stand on the bridge, look down through it, and see the water going underneath it. Putting the storm drain system in as proposed would be the best way to take care of the drainage and place a sidewalk over it. Just have they done on the causeway. Moving it to the other side of the street would just take property away from the people that's there now. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The applicant has a 5-minute rebuttal.
Thank you, Commissioners. Jake Kramer again. I've spoken to my client. We had received several calls from neighboring landowners before today and had not heard any concerns. So this is the first we're hearing about these concerns today. So if it's all right with you all, what we'd like to do is request that this be continued to the next meeting, because we would like to sit down and understand the concerns. I'm not sure that they're all related to the request, but we want to talk it through and be a good neighbor. So we respectfully request a continuance to the next available meeting.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioner Wallstrom.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll move for a continuance.
Okay, we get a motion to continue in, what's the date?
The date will be August 8th at 9 a.m.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Wallstrom, second Commissioner Owen. Commissioner Kemp.
Yes. I would just like staff, and I'd like Mr. Williams to just know the status of the bridge in this case that so many people are talking about. I saw that you were there, and if we could hear from you. And then I have a question as well for staff.
Okay, good morning. Mike Williams. Commissioner, anytime there's issues with bridges, and DOT, as they mentioned, they do kind of the initial inspection on all of the bridges across the entire county. So that's not unusual. And apparently staff has gone out. I'm not familiar with the specifics of the issues there, but certainly with this continuance, we can check with the bridge team and the bridge staff and see what the issues really are. Does the bridge need to be replaced? Does it just need some repair? We don't know at this point.
With staff, again, if you could put up that map and show exactly the property and where this sidewalk is. From there to there. And this is, how many acres is this property?
Commissioners, the overall acreage is about 158 acres.
And I feel, I'll just say, first of all, it was approved, as I think it was Ms. Junkel said, with consideration to the sidewalk, and people come in and have that expectation, and then suddenly it's pulled away. She obviously uses this. We have, again, the most dangerous roads, second most dangerous roads in Hillsborough County, in the nation, for pedestrian and bicycle deaths, repeatedly, over and over and over again. So to remove this sidewalk and the conditions that have been expressed by members here coming here, I think is a real issue, a problem. And And when I hear that, well, the property's been developed to the point that we don't have the space to do that, but you have 150 acres that you could have planned your plan around and came here with that expectation and saying that you could do that, I think really needs to be looked at closely. So I'll just say that this is obviously returning and, for the record now.
All right, thank you. We got a motion to continue by Commissioner, also second Commissioner Owen. No other comments. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
E4.
The next item, agenda item E4, is PRS application 23-0509. The request is for a minor modification of a portion of the Bahia Beach Plan development comprising approximately 16.22 acres. The request is for basically to modify this area, which consists of portions of track 4 and 5 within the PD, and then track 7, the entire track 7 with the PD, to clarify permitted multifamily use within this area. Currently, the conditions indicate multifamily is to be condominiums. That is not a term defined by the code nor regulated during our site development review process. Therefore, the proposal is to modify that to just refer to multifamily as permitted as defined by the Land Development Code. Staff is supportive of this and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Diane Chadwick. I am a planner with Stantec. The address is 777 South Harbor Island Boulevard, Tampa. With me today is Jeff Carter from Harborside Suites, who is the owner of the property, and also Scott Steady as the attorney. This is pretty clean cut. It's the property is located in the Little Harbor community, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, down in Ruskin. The proposed change only affects those areas that were highlighted in your staff report. You had a lot of really good maps on your staff report. This PD is pretty much built out with just the few remaining tracks, which are tracks 4, 5, and 7. We do agree with the staff report and the revisions that have been proposed. And as stated, the Land Development Code doesn't regulate ownership, and the old approval specifically said condominium versus multifamily. So this whole application is in regard to changing that terminology. So we're here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Commissioner Owen.
Yes, this is my district, and first I'd like to commend you all for what you've done over there. Or someone's raising his hand back there to speak.
Oh, come on, sir, don't be shy.
Yes, my name's Mark
Morning,
Nelson.
sir.
I live in Little Harbor. Been there a couple of years now. What's happening in Little Harbor is getting built out. Lennar's in phase 3 of the homes that go to the right side of the marina. It's going to end up with around 200 homes. To the left is the condos that are already there. And it goes all the way down to the point. To get into Little Harbor, you go off Shell Point Road, which is a marked 2-lane road. A quarter mile of unmarked 2-lane road goes over one bridge to get in and out. There is no egress out the back. There's 5 POAs, and the CDD we're trying to work on that, but it's several years down the road. The condos that they have it zoned for, that was built into this roadway traffic pattern. Now you want to go multifamily and add several more hundred cars to try to get in and out a short quarter-mile unmarked 2-lane road over one bridge. A lot of residents are getting worried about how to get in and out of there. It's just not built infrastructure for any more multifamily type buildings. And that's about it. It's all about the access in and out of the properties. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, sir.
Mark Nelson, N-E-L-S-O-N.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner, before you continue, I want to give the applicant time for rebuttal. You want to add anything?
I would, Diane Chadwick for the record, I would note that there's no difference in traffic generation compared to what's called multifamily versus a condominium. And these are approved units. It's just a matter of terminology.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Owen.
Yeah, and I think, and Mr. Gormley, to address the gentleman's concern, there's no unit count change in this, correct? We don't define condominium in the LDC, and that's the issue here, but there will be not one, the concerns that the gentleman have deal with another development. This particular request that we're dealing with today is no unit change and no traffic count change whatsoever, correct?
Yes, that's correct. There's no change. Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I think is to decipher a big difference. And to the gentleman that came up here, you know, when future developments are coming in, we will absolutely address those separately. I know you all have been through a lot. I mean, it was started in the foreclosure boom. It's been hotels converted to condominiums. But I really do love this product where you guys are at right now. And again, to answer that gentleman's concerns, we will address that on future development over there. And we definitely do need to look at the ingress and egress into this community. But based on what we're looking at today in this request, we're not going to have any unit change as far as density goes, and we won't have any additional traffic count. So I'm going to move for approval.
Second. Got a motion to approve, Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Wostel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It does sound like a safety concern. I'm still unwinding the Pandora's box of what we call mobility fees compared to impact fees. So when we approve something like this, maybe Mr. Gormley, or I don't know if it's Ms. Leinhard, do we look at the potential impact and volume of whether or not this bridge can handle appropriate amount of people to get out in terms of an emergency, and whether or not the impact fees imposed on these projects would take into consideration the need to expand the bridge?
So yes to both of those questions. Whenever we look at new development, new projects, the access to that project is something that's very much in focus. We want to make sure it's safe and will operate effectively. The mobility fees are assessed on all development. They're assessed based on trip length and trip generation. That equates to a cost to replace that infrastructure. The way our mobility fees are structured is that they can be spent on capacity enhancing projects that are in the CIP. So the mobility fee does give a wider berth for projects that it can be spent on.
So if this gets approved, some type of trigger would go off to say, hey, in the CIP, this is now a need that we need to identify?
The approval of this application won't change the current status quo of what can be developed there. When this was originally approved, the term condominium was used, which it was really intended to be multifamily, but it's not a regulatory term, a condominium. It's a form of ownership. So
I understand that aspect, yeah. I'll be supportive of the motion. Just want to make sure that it's something that we're looking at. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Kemp.
Is there anything at all that changes in this but for the condominium change to multifamily staff?
No, Commissioner. That's the extent of the change.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Owen?
Yeah, and just to allude to some of Commissioner Wostel's concerns too, one thing about this community, it's become an actual tourist destination because you all have done such a good job. So not only do we deal with the traffic inflow of the residents, this is a tourist destination. So we just need to keep that in mind in the future. So thank you.
All right, got a motion, Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, Mr. Grady, next item.
The next item is agenda item F1, rezoning PD 23-0041. Commissioners, this is a request to rezone a 909.27 acre parcel from AR to planned development to be developed in accordance with the Wimauma Community Plan Village standards. Michelle Heinrich will provide a brief overview of the request and the specifics of the request.
Good morning, Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. As stated, this is a rezoning application for the newly adopted WVR2 residential regulations, which, and this, as stated, this project consists of 909 acres currently zoned AR, and the applicants are proposing a transfer of density from the sending area, which is 270 acres, to the receiving area, which is 638 acres. That density transfer will be 539 units, so the total amount of units in the receiving area will be 1,816. A conservation easement and the allowability for 2 dwelling units will be left on the sending area. The receiving area will feature multiple residential development areas, 3 neighborhood centers, recreation uses, and both active and passive recreation uses. Also, a K through 5 public school is also available in the site in the receiving area. The proposed project complies with the Wimauma Village residential LDC requirements, which includes providing multiple housing types, a block development pattern, open space, and neighborhood centers which provide residential support uses for the community. In exchange for the 2 units per acre of density, projects are required to provide community benefits. A total of 6 benefits is required for this project. And those include, first, a multi-use trail along the primary east and west roadway, which will connect to a trailhead found to the direct east, a 10-acre community park, which is to be owned and maintained by the HOA but publicly accessible, the provision of affordable housing, which is proposed to consist of 10% of the total units, and that 10% number would be 181 units at a 100 AMI. Also, the community benefit that will be provided is an increase in the minimum acreage for internal recreation and internal open space. And lastly, a commitment to develop part of the neighborhood centers for this project. Staff received no objections from reviewing agencies, and we do recommend approval, subject to conditions.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Good morning. Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson here this morning on behalf of the applicant, Eisenhower Property Group. I think Michelle did a good job of summarizing their request, and in the interest of your time this morning, I'm not going to repeat this testimony provided by staff, which shows that we are both consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the surrounding area. You will also hear the same when you hear from the Planning Commission this morning and when you hear the summary of the zoning hearing master, who has also found us consistent and compatible. I do have a housekeeping matter. We have some revised conditions that are clarifying language that have been shared with staff, but I need to enter them into the record. They're not substantive in nature. They only speak to sort of the standard of review when these technical requirements come in for preliminary plat, and I'd like to enter those into the record. We'd also like to take the time to thank staff, both Development Services and the Planning Commission. This is a very complex regulation. It's the first application of its kind. And we really appreciate the time and attention to detail that they spent in reviewing it and making sure that we are in full compliance with this new complex regulation. I'd also like to thank Wanda Broughton and the Wimauma Civic Association. They are long-term landowners in the WVR area, and they were participants in the original community plan and the revised community plan. And Ms. Broughton was also very instrumental in providing us a lot of history and also connecting us to the neighbors in the surrounding area. We had a separate meeting for those residents who live in the notice area, and we were able to identify a couple of buffering and screening issues that were on their mind that weren't on the mind of others, and we were able to address those, and we appreciate her facilitating that connection to that community. We'd also like to thank Gil Martinez and the Wimauma CDC, Mr. Don Hampton and Mr. John Reagan, all of whom spoke in support of the application. They all spent a lot of time. We had extensive community engagement on this project. We had at least 2 large group meetings and several other, probably 4 to 6 small group meetings to talk about the community benefits and make sure that they were refined in a manner that was going to be supported by the community. And we really appreciate that. I think although not everyone is necessarily happy with this plan, I think it's a good compromise, and we did comply with the letter of and the spirit of both the revised community plan as well as the revised comprehensive plan and the land development regulations. And we are here to answer any questions should you have them, but we would respectfully request your approval this morning.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the application? Come on down. You have a total of 10 minutes. So please be mindful of anyone else that might want to speak. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is John Regan. I live in Wimauma, and I am a volunteer member on the Wimauma Community Plan Task Force. And we've been working with the Eisenhower Group the developer in regards to this rezoning application. Our work with them has been very successful. It's providing community benefits which provide a win-win situation for the community and the developer. Benefits that we requested from them are community accessible public park, which would include pickleball, basketball, tennis courts, a baseball diamond, soccer field, shaded playground, public parking, public restrooms, outdoor pavilion, public school, dedicated land to the Hillsborough County School District, dedicated acreage committed to childcare, civic space, open air market, and religious facilities. Two multi-use trails, with environmental sensitive lighting, dedicated bike lane, seating benches, 911 Kinkos, trail parking areas. There'll be 181 units set aside for affordable housing, and 10 acres of community urban farmland established to provide a farming seed-to-table program for the community. The developer will dedicate 10 acres of agricultural land to the Wimauma CDC or other partnering organizations for this purpose to establish and manage a community-based agricultural program. If the developer's plan includes these benefits that I've mentioned, then I'm fully supportive of this. But there are still infrastructure issues that are out of the control of the developer. Therefore, I am requesting the Hillsborough County Commissioners direct more than the $20 million in impact and mobility fees be dedicated to Wimauma infrastructure improvements. Specific examples would be widening of Route 674 between 301 and just beyond Railroad Street to a 4-lane road, which is currently a 2-lane road. Install traffic lights along 674 at major intersections with heavy traffic as determined by the Florida Department of Transportation. Improve Wimauma water pressure to help attract new business development, resulting in the creation of local jobs. Infrastructure improvements must coincide with the development of this 900 acres with 1,800 homes now rather than after this development to prevent additional gridlock. These roads are already congested. Hopefully, county funding for infrastructure improvements, which are woefully needed, can be matched with state and federal infrastructure funding. The Wimauma Community Development Corporation, CDC, estimates this 1,800 home development is just the first of what will be 10,000 new Wimauma homes built over the next 7 years. Wimauma infrastructure must keep pace with future new development. I'm hopeful there is a collaboration between future developers, our task force, and our county commissioners for future development projects. We do not want to stop development, but instead have controlled development. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners and staff. My name is Don Hampton. I also belong to the Wimauma Task Force, and I want to, at this time, thank Eisenhower Group for working with us on all the community benefits. I won't repeat them. They were also, the prior speaker talked about them. One of the things that he did mention is that we would like certain trees planted in the subdivisions. not oaks and stuff that tear up the water lines and the sewer lines and the sidewalk, which it costs to us as taxpayers, which it costs to you too. I also like to thank you for listening to us today. And I hope these community benefits and things for these new Floridians that are coming to Florida will appreciate what we have done ahead of time. I also would like to say the roads are also a concern for me. I know under President Biden, whatever side of the political scale you're on, at the infrastructure bill, Florida, if have not already received, will receive $2.5 billion this year. Over the 5-year period, it's $13.3 billion. I want to know if the state senators, reps, and our U.S. congressperson has come to you and asked you for proposals so they can help us build these roads and bridges that we've heard about this morning. And I also think all of us working together, the developer, you as the board, the community, that we can solve this. And we can solve this now. I've heard today we're talking about we're going to delay. All that does is cost us all money. We need to solve the things that we know are going on now. I want to know how can we streamline the system of the Department of Transportation so that it doesn't take so long. This project probably won't start building for 2 years. It's going to take the Department of Transportation 2 years to figure out that we already know we got traffic jams that every last one of you up there are tired of. Everybody sitting behind me and standing behind me, we're tired of it. So we know what we need. I know it costs money. And it may be taxes. It may be mobility fees. Wimauma community. When I talk about the Wimauma community, I'm talking about a 15, 20-mile radius. And I'm sure all of you from time to time drive down in that area. I, as a Wimauma task force, you know my name. I got a letter from you this week. So write me a letter and tell me, hey, when you want to come down there and look at Wimauma? Mr. Owens is our representative. Come down and see us. Come down and see the traffic. We all know that these roads, and not just in Wimauma, need to be widened. So I don't understand if we knew this project was coming, we know another project right after that to the east of it is coming, why planning and zoning and Department of Transportation, you got plenty of time. And since we're going to get $13.3 billion for the state of Florida, we need to get our fair share. And why aren't we getting our fair share for this community? Is it because of politics? I mean, everybody from the governor on down says, hey, we're here for Florida. Well, it's time for you here for Florida. So I want to thank you all for listening to me. And I want to remind you that as a Hillsborough County person, which all of us are, we all voters.
Thank you, Mr.
Community of voters that are behind me, downstairs and here, let's get this right.
All right, thank you, sir. We only have less than 2 minutes left. Mr. Martinez, do you want to speak? Good morning. You've got 1:45.
Absolutely. Good morning, commissioners. I'm not going to take up much of your time. I just want to bring up to you that, the Wimauma Village plan was approved back in towards the end of 2021, 22. And since then, according to the plan, we as a CDC have put together the Wimauma Community Plan Activation Task Force to work in conjunction with the development community and with our existing community of residents, business owners, landowners to safeguard that the plan is implemented appropriately with good intent, with the spirit of the plan. And I'm glad to say that with your first major project coming into Wimauma, that has been accomplished. We have worked together as a community, and we are happy with the direction that this plan is going in and the community benefits that it offers and the standard that it sets for future developers when they come into Wimauma to know that there is a demand for community participation. So for that, I thank the Eisenhower Group, I thank the Planning Commission, and your Land Development Service staff. I'd really like to accentuate that out of this process came a commitment from the developer for a set aside of 10 acres of land for an agricultural program for the community. Really appreciate that. We look forward to developing that, and we'll keep you posted on that because we may need your help in that. With that, we support the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. All right, those in opposition, you have a total of 10 minutes. Is anyone here in opposition to the project? Going once. All right, Planning Commission?
Thank you. Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located in the Wimauma Village Residential 2 Future Land Use category. The site is in the rural area, and it's also located within the limits of the Wimauma Village Community Plan and the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The applicant requests to rezone the subject site from AR to planned development to develop 1,816 residential units utilizing the transfer of development rights and a Wimauma Village planned village concept. Surrounding uses mainly consist of vacant agricultural land and single-family residential developments. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of future land use element Objective 16 and its accompanying policies related to neighborhood protection. The proposal includes appropriate setbacks and buffers in relation to existing conditions. The site plan provides open space, landscape buffers, and stormwater retention areas. Furthermore, a variety of housing types are proposed, and the site plan shows an efficient system of internal circulation and connections to existing roadways and existing neighborhoods, consistent with future land use element policy 48.10. The request is consistent with future land use element policy 48.7, as the applicant has proposed 6 community benefit options. There are 4 benefits being proposed from the Tier 1 community benefits priority list. The multi-use trail is located on the north side of the county roadway, starting at the connection to the Tico corridor and continuing east to County Road 579. It is proposed to go north along 579 to be connected to the Little Manatee River trailhead. This multi-use path is approximately 1.3 miles and will connect to a neighborhood center. The remaining 3 benefits that are being proposed from Tier 1 are under Tier 1-4, which are required to directly or indirectly contribute towards furthering a defined goal with the Wimauma Community Plan. The 10-acre park is dedicated or is indicated on the site plan, meeting the community benefit under Tier 1-4. The park will contribute to the goals in the Wimauma Community Plan that require open space to be established as a focal point of new subdivisions with 50 or more dwelling units and promoting passive recreation approximate to ELAP sites. The site plan indicates that 10% of the units will be affordable, meaning that meeting that community benefit under Tier 1-4. Providing affordable housing units will contribute toward the goals of the Wimauma Community Plan that encourage housing to accommodate a diverse population and a range of income levels and orient residential development to the conceptual cross-county Greenway Trail Wimauma. Lastly, under Tier 1-4, the site plan indicates that 14 acres will be set aside for a public school site. Providing a site for a public school contributes toward the goals in the Wimauma Community Plan that desire a new elementary, middle, and high school located to be identified to support the projected residential development in the area. There are 2 benefits being proposed from the Tier 2 priority list. Under Tier 2-7, the applicant is proposing a 25% increase in internal open space. And under Tier 2-8, the applicant is proposing to construct an on-site non-residential uses within the required neighborhood center. The proposal is consistent with the vision outlined in the Wimauma Village Community Plan. As previously mentioned, there are a number of community benefits being proposed that directly or indirectly contribute to furthering a goal in the community plan. And the improvements that are being proposed support the goals that are outlined in the areas discussing education, affordable housing and neighborhoods, multimodal transportation and connectivity, parks, recreation and conservation, and the Wimauma Village Residential 2 Future Land Use category. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Zoning Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master considered the request to rezone approximately 909 acres from agricultural rural to planned development to develop a maximum of 1,818 dwelling units and associated uses under the newly adopted WVR2 requirements found in the Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan. The project includes a 200-acre sending area, of which 539 units will be transferred to the 2 receiving areas that total 638 acres. The combined number of dwelling units for the receiving area is 1,816 units, which equates to a density of 2 units per acre. A conservation easement and 2 single-family homes will remain on the sending area site. The receiving area will feature multiple residential development areas, including detached homes, attached homes, and multifamily homes. A minimum of 181 units, 10%, will be affordable housing dwelling units. The majority of the lots require rear access for vehicles to de-emphasize garages. 3 neighborhood centers will provide residential support uses such as daycare, churches, flexible market spaces, and municipal buildings. Commercial uses are not permitted in the neighborhood center, so as to direct those uses to the downtown area. Recreational uses, which include both passive and active parks, as well as multi-use trail and a K through 5th grade school, will also be developed in accordance with the WVR2 regulations. The county's transportation review section reviewed the application and does not object to the request, subject to the proposed zoning conditions. The developer has committed to the extension of Berry Grove Boulevard, which is the east-west roadway within the northern receiving area between US 301 and 579. The developer will also make transportation improvements to 579 and Saffold Road, including paved shoulders and a 10-foot wide multi-purpose pathway. The required access management improvements are based upon maximum trip generation cited by the developer's transportation engineer. There are conditions requiring a listing of existing and improved uses, including the associated trip generation calculations, such that additional access management improvements may be required in the future if the impacts exceed what was approved at the time of the rezoning. The zoning hearing master noted that the application does not include any plan development variations or waivers, and thereby ensures compliance with the specific WVR2 requirements. The zoning hearing master concluded that the application will be compatible with the land uses in the area and consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development code, and recommended approval.
All right, thank you. I'll go into board discussion. Commissioner Kemp.
Thank you. I think the fact that we didn't have one person speaking here in opposition speaks volumes about the work that was done to make this possible. And it was work that was done over about the last 4 years. I have to say, the first time the RP2 came to me, I've been on the board since December 2016, but I think it was maybe 2017 or 2018. And there was we had a moratorium. We did such work on hammering out, negotiating, working between, I'd say one of the primary developers, Jeff Hills, his name's been mentioned today, but there are some others, on the future of how we could build a better community in Wimauma and Baum. We did a moratorium. We agonized over months and months and months and months of community meetings where there was such incredible engagement in both Baum and Wimauma. And coming in here again and again, the Planning Commission did a great job. The groups in the community did a great job. I know Gil Martinez was involved, and at that time, I think, working to look at with the Enterprising Latinas about the community there and how they could build a better community. And I think people came together in a way, I have to say, I didn't quite expect this day to come in this way. So I am very pleased. One thing that's barely been mentioned is this is one of the first times that I know of, because we did new TDR trading of development rights. And here we're setting aside to the north 273 acres with a conservation easement on it. And that can be used but it will allow agriculture, which I think is a wonderful thing. It's pretty amazing that we have that property there. But that's not to speak of the things that would not have happened here if development had gone as it kind of was just going in that area, and we had big groups in here, and we'll still have the traffic issues to deal with. This is adding, as was pointed out, thousands and thousands of people to those areas, and I'll speak to that in a minute. But the community benefits, just from the simple 6 different types of housing, some of the rear parking, the siting within on property that's considered, more walkable and approachable, the public school property opportunity, the 10-acre community park. This is within the area. The multi-use trail, the 10% of affordable housing at 100% of AMI, average median income. All of these things, the increase in acreage for internal space for non-residential uses like childcare. All of these are just, I think, speak to a remarkable job by the applicant, the team, our staff, the Planning Commission, the communities there. I just think it's remarkable, and I think we're just going to have so much better a place for generations to come. It changes the way I feel that we have been approaching the land and development in that area, and for that, I think this is just wonderful, and I will hand it to the former board and the hours and hours and hours that were spent, hours, weeks, months, moratorium, everything, doing this and working on this so much and nailing it all out and hammering it all out, multiple meetings again and again and again, and moving up these community benefits, and also for the developer for, I think, doing this in what I think was a great way with the neighborhood groups that were suggested, or the community team that was put out there. So all of this is good, and I think it's all really wonderful. And I'll just speak to a minute too about I know Commissioner Wastel had mentioned mobility fees and impact fees, of which we in the past years did increase for the first time since the Berlin Wall, which is when they were set, our fees for the most part. The former road impact fees were changed to mobility fees, which changed the way that they could be applied. They were increased and put at after studies that showed what the impacts would be, but we still do not have and will not have enough money for so many of the needed projects. We are we've lost billions of dollars over the years in what could have been impact fees and which could have been other resources to apply to roads. But specifically, and I know it's very important, is that 674 was mentioned. And again, so many of these roads are FDOT roads that aren't county roads to improve, like 674, like so many of the east-west, like 301, and the state, for the most part, over and over again, puts their emphasis on the SIS, the strategic intermodal system, which generally is the interstates, and dedicates every year great resources to that, not as much, even by both habit and or process and by law, to important arterial roads like 674 and a million of them all over the place. I can name them all through Tampa and all through the county. So I think that might be a long time coming, but it's certainly important. We're going to have to do more and more with that. And I guess I'm sorry to see the ferry maybe not being possible, because I do think that that would also, we need options, we need transit options, we need everything we can bring to that area. But with that said, I'm just happy to move to approve, and you know, I'm really pleased with how this has come out.
We got a motion to approve, Commissioner Kemp.
Second.
Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Owen, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do want to commend the developer and all the folks that were involved here working together. What I will say, this is not all sunshine and rainbows. I don't think I've been tagged on Facebook so much with people in South County that are upset about this development. So, so while I do appreciate the hard work that everyone's put in, I know this is kind of the first go-round with the community benefit structure. You know, I was almost inclined to remand it for some particular reasons. I'm not going to. I'm going to support it. But I do have some questions. Ms. Corbett, could you come forward? And I know these community benefits, and to me, it's a little bit arbitrary, but I know that this was worked on by a prior board for many years. And while moratoriums, I think, can be great in certain circumstances, if you do a moratorium and roads haven't been improved, you're kind of in the same place you were back then. So hopefully with what we have coming in the future, hopefully we will have a new expressway extension and maybe possibly a bypass between Manatee and South County. But my issue particularly is with the multifamily units, the affordable housing units that are proposed to go in there. Are there bus stops that are going to be accessible to this, to wherever these units are going to be placed? I know the job function has been removed. One of my issues with slamming affordable housing outside the urban service area line is that you leave folks out there without any public transportation and without any jobs. And again, I know the job requirement has been removed, but can you allude to how the transportation model will work for folks in the affordable housing situation?
So, Commissioners, just to clarify, you are calling it multifamily. There is an apartment type house. I want to put up on the Elmo the typical lot layouts for the development. Mm-hmm. And you can see the conditions limit the affordable housing to the apartment house lot type, the row house lot type, and the cottage house type. And so that would be 10% of the cottages. The cottages are 50-foot or 40-foot lots. And then also the development standards limit the maximum height to 35 feet. So they are essentially townhome and single-family structures. So even though they are affordable, they are not multifamily in the traditional sense. And so accordingly, we're not really relying on this typical transit model where we have a 4-story or 5-story multifamily building along a major transit corridor. These are just 10% of the lots within each of these apartment types. And the affordable housing was a very important element to the community. They were concerned about gentrification, quite frankly. And so allowing for some affordable housing in this development was a way to address that concern.
Yeah, it's just, it's a lot of units. It's 180 units, because I know this is a big development. Is the developer going to commit to doing them as cottages? Is that something they're committed to, or?
The conditions allow them to be the apartment lot type, the row house, and the cottage type.
Okay.
And again, just to clarify, it's 10% of the total units, so we have maxed out the density at the 1,800 and whatever, but if we only are able to fit 1,600, then it would be 160, so just to clarify that.
And you may not be able to answer this now. Will those, the affordable housing component, will that be at the front end or back end, or do you know how that's going to take place?
We don't know exactly how it's going to take place, but we do have specific places on the site plan where those lot types can be located, and we do anticipate them to be in future phases. More than likely than not, the development will develop from Berry Grove and Berry Bay east, and the lot types that are on that sort of the western boundary of this project are typical single family. So it will be a little bit later in the future when those phases come in.
Yeah, and this has nothing to do with you as the developer. Mr. Gormley, on the community benefits plan, so because this is over 320 acres, they pick 6. So they can just pick any 6 they want, or even sometimes double up on one particular one. Is that how it works?
They do have, yes, sir, they do have the latitude to choose. There are some tier 1 and tier 2 benefits, so they have to choose within each tier, but within those numbers, they have the latitude to choose which benefits they would include in development.
Yeah, and this is going to be a big development, and you know, we go back to, I know I harp on it all the time, the public safety component in South County, and I've noticed now in these community benefits in either of these tiers, does anything address the possibility of, you know, dedication of land for fire stations or any type of public safety component? Is that in any of these particular ones?
I believe there's a civic space that's proposed, and one of the uses that's contemplated in there is a fire station.
So that could fall under that particular one. Yeah. You know, I'd really like this board to look at the community benefits at some time. I don't know if it's appropriate, Mr. Gormley, to discuss this here, and they'll go for the RP2 as well, to get some type of staff report on the community benefits plan under the WVR2 so that we could possibly look at this as the new board to see if there's any amendments in the future. Would I have to do that at a regular meeting or here?
We would take the board's or direction or request from the board to bring that back. I do think that, you know, if there's a discussion on the community benefits as a concept, having that be a separate discussion from the live application
Sure.
would provide
Yeah,
those
absolutely. Yeah, that
latitudes
has nothing to
for
do with
this.
this. And again, I really commend the work, Cammie, that you have put in, and as well as with the organizations and the gentleman that spoke today. But I just want to clarify that while that is great, I have received a lot of tags on Facebook, probably more than I've ever gotten so far, on people that are upset with this, obviously, and it's because of us, you know, developing a large community where our roads and our infrastructure just aren't caught up. But I do commend the developer, and I think that this community has really come out and done a great job at determining the future of how they want the WVR2 to be developed. But I'm going to be supportive of it, but I sure would like to take a look at this again, because we're in a tough spot here with public safety, with schools and infrastructure out in South County. And again, alluding to the moratorium, that's great, but if you don't do anything within that moratorium time, you're in the same place you were before. So thank you, Cammie. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Wolstel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I dug into this one quite a bit. You know, state legislatures, they write law, and then judges evidently define the law for them at a later date. And we're in a unique spot where we write it, and then we also make judgments on it. This is the first one that has to deal with these specific action task forces, and I really looked into the definition of what they are and how they exist. We created them as a government body. I would say to some of the speakers, you're right, oak trees, I would suggest magnolias, it turns out, and those are all things that I'm working on. The problem with the other speaker that spoke first, I believe, also good ideas. The problem that I have with mobility fees is that it seems to not clearly and directly identify that the fund should go and improve the infrastructure and stoplight before, or at least at the same time that the housing is developed. I would say that my experience is leading here is that the finger gets pointed at the developer when it turns out that, in fact, the developer, it seems, would like for those things to happen. It just doesn't seem that we have a good plan in place, and those are all both great things that I'm going to be working on over the next 3.5 years. I promise you that. I'll turn back my eyes to the community benefits agreement. Commissioner Owens is kind of stepping on my thunder there a little bit. I have some concerns, questions. I looked into, I would direct my colleagues' attention to pages 494 to 499 of the legal record that was created leading up to this hearing. There were some letters that were submitted, and I have found some red flags in them, and I started looking into trying to get the minutes and the transcripts of the private meetings that we as elected officials required for these action task forces, but I couldn't find any minutes of these meetings, and it almost seems that these meetings were private. I didn't write the land use code, and I didn't write the comprehensive plan amendments that were there, but are these meetings private or are they public? Are they supposed to be recorded? Am I supposed to have a transcript? Especially when we're having government-created functions that are entering essentially into negotiations with private property owners.
So, address.
Whoever.
Yeah, so Commissioner, the code requires 2 meetings, one pre-application, one post-application, to discuss community benefits. They are required to be a public meeting. However, there's no detail in the code of the venues in which they need to be held. There is a requirement that the applicant notify registered neighborhood organizations within the community planning area, which in the case of Wimauma, there was one organization, and the applicant is required to provide a summary of the meeting. And the summary has been provided separately, but it is not a, there's no requirement for it to be recorded or I would equate a summary to minutes, but that's what the applicant is required to provide in terms of documentation of the meeting and notification in advance of the meeting.
Okay. Pointing to those same documents that are on the record, 494 to 499, which was the list of the individuals that make up the WCPAT, which is the Wimauma Community Plan Activation Task Forces. One of the members that are listed on that task force group is someone named Vivian Handy. Vivian Handy should be a name that we all know because they are also directed to be one of our planning commissioners that is under regulations of Sunshine Law. So we have essentially a government-created task force that also has a Board of County Commissioner appointed planning commissioner that is now sitting in on private, non-recorded, and non-transcripted meetings that are negotiating benefits of individuals' private property. Under Title VI, Chapter 76, Section 002 of the Florida State Constitution, private property rights, the right to dispose of your private property, the right to exclude others from your property, the right to use and enjoy your property, and the right to due process of your property is a constitutionally protected value in the state of Florida. Within this same document that was submitted, it is said that this task force negotiated first right of refusal for the sale of these affordable housing homes, and that either they themselves or somebody that they pick would be in charge of selling these homes. I would at this time ask the applicant, is the Wimauma CDC in any way a financial partner to this development?
Cami Corbett, for the record, no, the CDC is not a financial partner in this development.
Thank you very much.
There is no documented right of first refusal. We've just been negotiating in good faith with them.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Corbett. At this time, I will say that I 100% believe that the history of this property, I don't know who the property owner is. I only see Eisenhower Property Group. From the District 7 County Commissioner's Office of Hillsborough County, I will extend my apologies to you. I do believe that your private property rights were violated by an extension of government function. I will be supporting this application. However, I will be continuing on to completely abolish the community benefits agreement of the Hillsborough County Land Use Code and Comprehensive Plan, as I believe that it has created a dichotomy that allows a violation of the Florida State Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cohen, before I call on you, it's clearly Commissioner Wolstill has some concerns with the community benefits section. I know Commissioner Owen sounded like he was going in that direction with asking staff to come back. I'm just suggesting maybe after we dispose of this motion, maybe there's another motion along the lines of having staff come back with a report or whatever you guys think. Don't make it a part of this record, but maybe we'll address that afterward. Just a suggestion. Commissioner Cohen?
Thank you very much. I think that discussion about community benefits will happen at a later time, and I think judging from how much discussion there was in the last board when they were formulated, it's safe to say that reasonable people can differ as to what the best and most effective community benefits are, or whether we should have them at all. That being said, I do want to just reiterate what Commissioner Kemp said about how much work was done to really give thought to this particular portion of our county. When Commissioner Myers and I were elected in 2020, the moratorium was already in place, and these discussions were happening, and they were really interrupted by COVID. And as a result, this process dragged on a lot longer than it should have, and as new commissioners, we came in and sort of were thrust right into the middle of it. And I also want to really congratulate the developers in this case on working through all these issues and coming to such a such a widely supported agreement. I did want to make one comment about infrastructure. You know, there have been a lot of stories and reports of the water challenges that have faced South County in terms of water pressure and water availability. And one thing that we have done is made tremendous investments in our water infrastructure in this area. Both Tampa Bay Water and Hillsborough County are currently in the middle of projects to put both temporary and longer-term fixes in place to increase the water supply. And it will culminate by the year 2028 in a huge increase in our ability to deliver water to that entire part of the county. So one thing that I think it's important to stress is that that piece of our infrastructure is being planned for, it is being funded, and different things are coming online in the next 4 or 5 years that will increase the availability of water. And with that, I am going to support the motion.
I thank you, Commissioner Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yeah, that was a lot of things I was tagged on too. You know, this development's coming in and we have water issues. So thanks for clarifying that. Mr. Gormley, if, because we're going to address this like maybe as a separate motion, but related to this, if say there was an amendment to the LDC and comp plan as to the community benefits, or after listening to Commissioner Wostel, whatever we decide to do with that, this particular development, would they have the opportunity to possibly revisit if there are changes to the community? How would that process work with this particular development?
Yeah, so if this application were approved and there was a change to the community benefit structure, one different than it is today, this applicant could come back in, request a change, a modification to this approved PD to reflect whatever changes would be adopted in terms of the community benefits.
Very good, thank you.
Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, I'd just like to say that I'm very concerned about the community benefits as well. I know it's for a different date, but I am looking forward to that discussion. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Got a motion to approve Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you. And what's the pleasure of the board on
If I may, Mr. Chairman? Yeah, I would like to make a motion for staff to bring back a report on the community benefits under the WVR2 so we can take a look at the possible future amendments to the LDC and comp plan.
Okay, second. Motion by Commissioner Owens and Commissioner Wostel just for staff to bring back a report on the community benefits section. No questions or comments on the motion. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-1. Commissioner Kemp voted no.
All right. Mr. Grady.
The next items are related items G1A and G1B. G1A is a rezoning of a 16.44 acre parcel that's located on the south side of Graves Road on the east side of I-75. The request is rezone the 16.44 acre parcel from a PD and a portion of the existing PD to a new PD for 280 multifamily units. Per the site plan, as you can see on here, wetlands are located on the southern boundary of the property, which provides significant separation from the residential to the south. The parcel to the east is part of the portion of the PD that's within a portion of this property is contained, and that's being developed with townhomes, and to the north is retention. Therefore, staff is finding that rezoning approval. The related item G1B is a minor modification to that existing PD to as part of the rezoning action to remove a portion of that property from that PD. The red crosshatched areas, the areas that are being removed from the existing PD. Staff has reviewed that and determined that this removal of this acreage has no negative effects on the existing parcel that's remaining within the PD, and therefore is recommending approval of that. So staff is recommending approval of both items and available for any questions.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Thank you, Commissioners. Rebecca Kurt. Okay. Thank you, Rebecca Kurt with Brooks Rocha. I have with me Michael Brooks as co-land use counsel. We are here to represent Whitewater's group in this rezoning. I have with us also Marco Mazzocchi, the Director of Development, Michael Yates with Palm Traffic, and Todd Amadon with Landmark Engineering. This is a rezoning of a parcel along I-75 for a planned development for 280 multifamily units. It is taking an existing PD and a portion of another existing PD, which because we're taking a portion of an existing PD, it requires a companion PRS 2333. If not, we would most likely be on your consent agenda because we have all recommendations of approval and no opposition. This is a location map. You can see us in red. We are approximately 16 acres abutting I-75 between MLK and State Road 60. We are within the urban service area and outside the coastal high hazard area. The property itself is predominantly vacant with an existing billboard, which will remain pursuant to conditions of the rezoning. To the north of the property is a large retention area and some multifamily. To the east is townhomes, which are currently in permitting. To the west is Interstate I-75 and also commercial and industrial property. And to the south is single family. And I'd like to point out to you that when you see the site plan, you'll notice the entire southern half of this parcel is going to be retention, wetlands, and passive recreation in order to be sensitive to the single family to the south. Our future land use designation is UMU 20 and R6. We are requesting a flex of UMU 20. That is an existing flex that was approved in the prior PD. We think it is continues to be justified because it's going to facilitate a transition from the commercial and industrial and the interstate to the townhomes to the east of the property. This is one of the current existing PDs. It was rezoned in 2020 for some self-storage and some recognition of some existing single-family and ag uses. This is the current zoning PD 050809, which was modified as recently as last year. The portion in blue is a portion that will remain in the existing PD. The peach color is what will be coming out to our new PD. Tract A is going to remain in the existing PD. It will not have any additional allowable uses other than wetlands and retention and passive recreation, but it's remaining in the existing PD to make sure that we leave them with the same dwelling units that they had or density that they had. This is the overall site plan. Again, to the north is to the right side of the site plan. It's for 280 multifamily. The multifamily will be located completely on the northern portion of the parcel. The dotted line shows the building boundaries. To the south, again, is going to be wetlands, stormwater, floodplain compensation, and passive recreation, which will provide a over 600-foot buffer to the single family to the south. The maximum height of the multifamily will be 50. This also shows the setbacks. We are accommodating the additional 2-to-1 setback above 20 feet to be sensitive to the townhomes that are currently going through the permitting process. The accessory structures, which will basically be the parking structures, have a height limit of 20 feet. And again, even those accessory structures are 600 feet from the single family to the south. We are providing buffer and screening on all sides of the property. To the south, we are requesting, or to the west, we are requesting a screening variation. This particular code requirement is for the benefit of the multifamily that will be placed on it to protect it from the interstate noise that comes from the interstate. So it's for the protection of the people who will live on our future development. The reason that we are requesting the variation is because there's a 30-foot gas pipeline and we are unable to put plantings in there. However, we are alternatively proposing a 20-foot buffer and a 6-foot masonry wall or fence, and or the accessory garage structures, which will provide some really good noise attenuation. This slide is showing you the flexes that are on the property. The yellow portion in the drawing is what is being removed from the existing PD. The red is what is remaining of the UMU flex. And again, we left that portion of the property in the original PD to make sure that we were leaving the remaining PD with the same density and we weren't negatively affecting them. In conclusion, we have recommendations of approval from all agencies and the zoning hearing master. We respectfully request your approval. We do have an accompanying design exception, which is just basically an extension from the one that was previously approved, and I'm available if there are any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any proponents that would like to speak to the item? Anyone in opposition? With that, Planning Commission.
Thank you. Melissa Leinhard for the record, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the urban mixed use 20 and residential 6 future land use categories. It is in the urban service area and also located within the limits of the Brandon Community Plan. The proposal meets the intent of future land use element objective 1 and policy 1.4 by providing a residential use within the urban service area where 80% of future growth is to be directed. The proposal meets the compatibility requirements of future land use element policy 1.4 as the predominant character of the area is residential development. The subject site is surrounded by single-family residential, multifamily residential, and agricultural land in the immediate vicinity. West of the site, across I-75, is single-family residential and light industrial uses. The applicant proposes to utilize the flex provision as outlined in future land use element policy 7.3 to flex 322 feet of the UMU 20 future land use category located directly to the west over a portion of the subject site designated as residential 6. The applicant has stated a similar flex request has been approved as part of the 3 prior zoning applications. The proposed use meets the intent of future land use element objective 7 and its modifying policies regarding the flex provision. The flex is in the urban service area. It is not in the coastal high hazard area. It extends parallel to the future land use category and is less than 500 linear feet and is not an extension of an existing flex. Per future land use element objective 8, the future land use categories outline the maximum level of intensity and density and the range of permitted land uses that are allowed within each category. The requested flex for UMU 20 would allow up to 20 dwelling units per acre on site in the flexed area. The site plan lists that 4.32 acres of the total 16.44 acres of the property are wetlands, and the proposal is then subject to the environmentally sensitive land credit as outlined under Objective 13 in the future land use element. Per the land credit, the maximum permitted density is 303 units, and the requested density of 280 units is under that maximum and is therefore consistent with the future land use category and the flex provision. The 280 units also meets the 75% minimum density requirement as outlined under policy 1.2 of the future land use element. The subject site is in the suburban character district of the Brandon Community Plan. The proposed use meets the intent of the community plan, which proposes a residential use in an area that is designated primarily as residential. In addition, new development is required to build internal sidewalks and connect to existing external sidewalks. The site will also meet the intent of Goal 1 of the community plan on establishing a balanced transportation system, which provides safe infrastructure for all modes of transportation and design intersections for pedestrian safety. The site plan states internal sidewalks are proposed. In addition, the design exception has stated either a 5-foot sidewalk or a 10-foot multi-use path will be proposed externally along Graves Road, depending on the right-of-way limitations. The development proposes an internal pedestrian cross-access point to the development to the east, consistent with this vision. Based upon these considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Zoning Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request to rezone 2 parcels from Plan Development 2447 and 2 parcels from Plan Development 05809 to a new plan development to allow development of 280 multifamily units. The applicant is requesting a PD variation from Section 6.06.06 of the LDC, which requires specific screening in areas of excessive traffic or noise. In lieu of that screening requirement, the applicant is proposing a 25-foot wide buffer along the subject property's west boundary with screening in the form of a 6-foot high masonry wall or solid wooden or PVC fence, and accessory garage structures to provide screening along with or in lieu of the wall or fence. The applicant has requested a design exception related to Graves Road's substandard roadway improvements. The county engineer found that design exception to be approvable. The zoning hearing master also considered the flex request under future land use policy 7.3 to flex 322 feet of the UMU 20 future land use category from the west over a portion of the subject property designated residential 6. The zoning hearing master, in considering the record evidence and the materials provided, found that the requested plan development rezoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development code and recommended approval.
All right, thank you. We will vote on both G1A and G1B together after we hear the PRS. Mr. Grady, do you need to introduce the PRS?
I spoke to that as part of the initial presentation, so no further comments from staff regarding that item.
Okay, the applicant like to make any additional remarks?
In my earlier presentation.
Okay, anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? If not, can we have a combined motion for both G1A and G1B?
Move approval of both.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion for G1A and G1B by Commissioner Cohen and a second Commissioner Kemp. If there are no comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you. Last item.
The last item is agenda item F2, major mod application 23-0132. Commissioners, this is a major modification of existing plan development to modify a 149.85 acre parcel. The larger PD is currently approved for 1,655 units. The proposal is to add 251 single-family units as part of redevelopment of the area currently developed with the golf course. Michelle Heinrich will provide a brief overview of the request. Thank you.
Good morning, Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. This is a major modification request to PD 72-0319, known as the Pebble Creek community, to redevelop the area that is currently approved for a golf course to 251 single-family homes and recreational uses. Given the size of the subject area, the density which will result from that number is 1.6 per acre. The site is located in the Res 4 future land use category and urban service area. Also, the Pebble Creek community is developed with single-family detached, 2-family, and multifamily uses. Staff's review found that the project, as proposed, is developed with sensitivity to the existing residential currently located around the site. The project will feature open space and stormwater ponds along the perimeter, which will internalize the proposed homes to be 102 to 360 feet from the site's boundaries. Vehicular access is limited to the western area only, with no other full access points elsewhere from the subject site. The proposed number of lots is significantly lower than what could be considered under the Res 4 future land use. And lastly, the applicant has also committed to enhance building design for the residential units using varying architectural features and a variety of elevations and exterior colors. These findings, along with the finding of consistency from the Planning Commission and no objections from reviewing agencies, determined the proposal to be approvable, subject to proposed conditions, and I'm available if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. The applicant here? Good morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Chair. While I'm booting up my presentation here, I want to let the board know there's apparently about 60 people downstairs interested in this item. Before we start, could we just make sure that if we have capacity, that if there's anyone who wants to be a part of the hearing, that they're here?
Absolutely. Staff has been bringing folks up as people leave, and John's indicating that they're continuing to do that. So,
okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, board members. Good to be here this morning. My name is Jake Kramer with Stearns Weaver Miller, 401 East Jackson Street, number 2100, representing GL Homes. They have this defunct golf course property under contract and are proposing a low-density, high-quality, single-family community using density already approved in this PD. Our entire project team, including GL Homes, has significant experience in golf course redevelopment. We've done this before. We and they know how to do this in a way that's sensitive to the neighborhood. To give you context, Pebble Creek is an ideal infill location within the urban service area. Here in yellow are the established developments that are mostly complete, with the city of Tampa very close by to the east, south, and west. Just to the north in Pasco in orange, you can see approved projects with ongoing development. And this is one of the fastest growing areas in the state and the nation. The site, as well as the Pebble Creek community, are R4, which means 4 units per acre overall. And the site and the neighborhood are also zoned PD. The PD was approved in 1972, about 5 years after the golf course was built. Neither the PD nor any of the documents on title restrict the use of the property to a golf course in perpetuity. This PD currently has 689 excess and unbuilt units. We're not asking for any additional units. Again, we're just asking to replace a defunct use with already approved units. So the project, again, we're asking for 251 homes out of those 689 excess units for a density of only 1.7 units per acre. At the neighborhood's request, we've limited our request to only one access on the west side of the property so that we get the traffic as close to Bruce B. Downs as possible and not through the center of the community. The community benefits we're proposing include 5 neighborhood parks that will be open to all of Pebble Creek, 25 acres of wetlands that will be protected, and we've added a ring of lakes that you can see here to ensure compatibility. You can also see that the existing single-family homes, all back up into open space, conservation, and lakes, and not any new backyards. Someone mentioned the Berlin Wall earlier. Well, this golf course was from much, much earlier. When this course was built, we hadn't landed on the moon. We had just learned about calculators and Big Macs, and we were in the midst of Beatlemania and the Vietnam War. So the course was the first thing built in this area, really, and it's been closed for 2 years. The record shows that under today's standards, the course would be considered to be poor and substandard, and it's not financially viable to reopen. So it should come as no surprise that this area is ripe for redevelopment after 56 years. We worked to take the existing neighborhood into account in designing this project. One of the ways we did that was very extensive neighborhood outreach. GL Homes spent almost a year after getting the property under contract talking with the community before filing anything at all. They wanted to listen and learn first. For a year and a half now, they've engaged in print, virtual, and in-person outreach. And one of the most impressive things to me being a part of this, I'm very proud of it, the GL team knocked on all 1,353 doors in the neighborhood, and they didn't outsource that to a PR firm. These were actual GL employees who will be involved in the development process, giving their information to people so they know who to call if there are problems, taking their questions and concerns. Here are some examples of those community engagement materials: flyers, emails, questionnaires, detailed website, videos, renderings, also people could understand what is planned, 5 direct mail pieces that went to all 1,353 residents to make sure everyone knew what was going on. And because of that outreach, 85% of the community does not oppose this rezoning. 85% does not oppose the rezoning. So through that whole engagement process, GL and our team ended up with some critical feedback, which I want to tell you about the feedback before you hear more about the planning, because that was the feedback, that year process was critical to the plan we designed. The community asked us for no apartments. This is single family only. The community asked us for no rentals. This is not a build to rent community. This is a for sale community. The community asked us for less density than what is the excess that's allowed in the PD, and we did that. They asked us, one critical point was no entrance into the southwest, and so into the heart of Pebble Creek. So we worked with staff to make sure that we met the county's regulations to be able to do that. They asked us to protect the environment, and so we're enhancing the environment to make sure that it's actually going to be better environmentally post-development than the property is today. They asked us to protect our quality of life, which is why we proposed 5 parks. We're committing to maintenance to ensure that it's not an eyesore like we understand the property is today. And we're not proposing any PD waivers or variations. So with that, I'd like to bring up our AICP planner to describe some of the planning aspects.
Good morning. My name is Steven Sposato. I am a certified planner with Level Up Consulting, 505 East Jackson Street here in Tampa. The planning issues are straightforward. Your staff report and recommendations from staff and the zoning hearing master are evidence that what we're requesting is consistent with the comp plan and compatible with adjacent development. It is an infill site in the urban service area where development and redevelopment is encouraged to occur. The modification is a change in use, but the change is to the same use, or predominantly the same use, which is found directly adjacent. And I think most notable, and Jake mentioned it as well, but I've been a planner for a while, and this is probably one of the most significant, meaningful community involvement processes I've been a part of. Pebble Creek PD includes a mix of uses, including single-family, multifamily, and commercial. Our proposed density is 1.7 units to the acre, which is less than the single-family which is found adjacent. And the driver for the reduced density is the ring of lakes, as well as the preservation of environmental features. The design process was both input from the community and then more traditional layering methods focusing on environmental and constructed features. And the result is the PD site plan. And graphics and text ensure consistency and certainty as the project moves forward. The amenities and enhancements are not only internal to the PD, but they're external to the benefit of the larger Pebble Creek community, and include a 3.2-acre park near the entrance of the community, as well as 4 passive parks. And this is just a perspective of one of those parks looking from Regent Park Drive into the community over the lake. Additional community benefits include creation of the lakes, pedestrian path connector from Bruce B. Downs to the project entrance, redesigned signage, preservation of wetlands, planting of trees, a new dedicated right turn lane at the project entrance, and twice the required internal stacking. Attention to design was not only on the site features, but as you can see with these images, to the architecture as well. Thank you.
You have a minute 40 left.
Good morning. Steve Henry, Links & Associates, 5023 West Laurel, Tampa, 33607. We did the traffic analysis for the project, and as indicated, we've got one access on Regents Park Drive. It's actually on the collector portion of the road, so there are no homes fronting on the road from 581 to our project access. We're also proposing a right turn lane into the project along Regents Park Drive to help with the traffic circulation. In addition to that, we're setting back the gate further than what the code would require to, again, provide better circulation. Technically, Regents Park Drive is a substandard road, basically because it does not have bike lanes. What we're proposing here is, as you can see on the graphic here, is to add a 10-foot sidewalk from 581 to east of our driveway to tie into the existing sidewalk that is along Regents Park Drive. This will provide a pedestrian connection to the multi-use path that is along 581. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioners, as I bring this to a close, this is the site today versus what we're proposing. The existing state is an abandoned golf course. The choice today is not between keeping golf or building a new community. The decision and the opportunity today is whether to allow sensitive development to revitalize an existing community where the previous use has gone defunct. I think from a property rights perspective, some viable use needs to be allocated to this parcel. The evidence shows this. Our experts have explained it's not economically feasible to bring back golf. There's a property valuation report showing that we will not negatively affect valuations in the neighborhood. And we should not let a plan that was developed before man set foot on the moon act as an impediment to improving this neighborhood. So this is the chance to set golf course redevelopment on the right course in Hillsborough. Thank you.
I know it's time for proponent testimony. You have a total of 10 minutes. I know many folks have signed up and are here. Not sure if you have designated speakers, but please be mindful of the time. So those in support, please come forward. Again, you have a total of 10 minutes. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Lance Ignatowicz. I live on Cypress Shadow Avenue in Pebble Creek. My wife Lynn and I, along with our 2 sons, are proud residents of Pebble Creek.
Repeat your name, I'm sorry.
Lance Ignatowicz. For many years, many of us in this neighborhood have been working with GL Homes on the idea of transforming the vacant, overgrown Pebble Creek Golf Course into an upscale, single-family home community to solve this ongoing problem we have. Throughout the process, GL Homes has listened to our residents, made a number of changes, constantly revising their plan to fit what we desired. All of this hard work was a true partnership between the Pebble Creek residents and GL Homes. I think this final plan shows that. The fact that the opposition from day one has flat out refused to speak to GL Homes, attend any meetings, or provide any input, it really shows that their desire from the beginning was not to do what's in the best interest of our community. It was just to stop rezoning at all costs. I was pleased that this plan received approval from the county staff, but I realize that this board holds the final say. I respectfully request, as a taxpayer, a voter, and a resident of Pebble Creek, that you approve this. Please provide our community the closure we need to solve this ongoing problem plaguing our community. Please help our homeowners protect our property values and secure our future by voting yes on this application. We welcome GL Homes into our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next. Good morning.
Good morning. We'd like to thank you for the time you're taking to give us an opportunity to speak. I'm Linda Warnsice, living at 18528 Ambley Lane since 1991. And there are many concerns by the opposition about construction. We could not see any homes any direction from our house, and we survived all that construction, and I think we will survive the construction of this also. I won't be redundant by saying what a great job GL Homes has done. It's already been mentioned, and they have. It's my understanding your expert staff and your zoning hearing master has recommended approval of GL Homes' plan, but ultimately, I also understand the buck stops with you. One of my major concerns, if this does not be passed for rezoning, is based on the new state law, Live Local, which will allow multiple homes, maybe up as many as 500 apartment buildings and businesses. And it's my understanding that no approval by county commissioners will be needed for this process. Our HO attorney has reviewed this and has found that this property is viable for that type of building, and we don't want it. Please vote in support of the rezoning. If you deny this rezoning, we just feel that we have much worse scenarios coming up, and GL Homes is the best for us. And just a little food for thought, please think, if you were us, if your home was in Pebble Creek, would you want to vote for this rezoning if you lived here? We certainly are requesting and respectfully asking you to rezone this area for GL Homes construction because we feel the alternative will be a disaster.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Joanne Danaher, and I have been a homeowner on Colonnade Drive in Pebble Creek for over 11 years. And during those 11 years, I've witnessed Pebble Creek and its surrounding neighbors in our part of Hillsborough County lose its attraction for new home buyers to Pasco County, especially along State Road 56 and 54. Excuse me. We are an older community, and the only way we can stay relevant in the home buying market is to maintain our property value, and to maintain our property values and your tax base is to improve the vibrancy of Pebble Creek. Experts, GL Homes has presented experts in specific fields, and they've addressed our concerns on the impact of the environment, traffic, and even construction dust. There's a small contingent of homeowners, yes, I said small, who have homes that backed up to the closed golf course. Notice I said backed up to and closed. There is no longer a golf course, only open, overgrown land that is a haven for snakes, mosquitoes, and other wildlife not conducive to a residential community. When I asked the opposing side, well, what is your plan B if the rezoning is not approved? I heard answers from the county should build a park or let nature take it over. Well, as for a park, we have local parks in and outside of our community, and GL Homes is proposing building more. And as for nature, well, it has taken over, and it's not a pretty sight. I urge you, please, for you to approve rezoning this property for residential homes and ensuring that it will positively impact the long-term viability of Pebble Creek. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is John Scaife, and I live in Pebble Creek on Forest Glen Court. I'm a newbie. I've only been there a couple of years, and I'm sure behind me there are people that have lived there 3-4 decades. Being said that, I'm in support of having the area rezoned. I'm in support of the GL Homes project because I'm against one thing, and I'm against stagnation. Our community does need to be updated. We need more enhancements to attract more homeowners and to keep it viable with other communities in our area. So for that reason, I'm supporting the project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, please. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Carol Claus. I live at 10,003 Cypress Shadow Avenue. I've lived in Pebble Creek for 17 years now. There are 2 HOAs in Pebble Creek. There's a larger HOA with about 1,050 homes and a smaller HOA with about 303 homes. I just want you to know, I attend the HOA meetings. We have about five families that are represented, but I go because I care about our community. I want to know what's going on. I want to make educated decisions, and I want to be informed. I volunteer on 2 of the HOA committees, again, because I care about my community, and I want to improve it and help in any way. I helped co-found the Neighborhood Watch because I care. If I thought GL was going to hurt Pebble Creek in any way, I would not be here supporting it. I'm supporting it, I care about my community, and I'm involved. In that massive binder you have of all the letters, you take out all the duplicates, you take out all the people that don't live in our community. You had about 120 homes in favor of the development, about 196 against it. Since the planning and hearing the master that we came to, there's been a lot of bullying going on, intimidation and harassment.
Excuse me, ma'am. it's not possible to, at this time, bring in any new information about what occurred after the zoning hearing master, because at that time, the record of the application closed, so no new material or anything that occurred after the zoning hearing master hearing can be discussed.
Okay, got it. So if you look in that binder, I sent in a meme that was created of me using my full name and put out there to intimidate me and bully me. And I'm just telling you, neighbors are afraid. They're afraid to speak up because they don't want their neighbors to know they support it. They message you and say, I'm in favor of it, you can't use my name. Now people are coming out, they're not afraid anymore. And you can show what the turnout here and the blue shirts and the more that are downstairs. People realize this is a good deal. And again, I wouldn't be here. I put too much effort into my community, I care too much, and I participate too much to do anything to harm my community. GL is bringing us nothing but great things at no cost to our homeowners. I am asking sincerely, please approve this, help us. I don't want to use the word old, I like mature. We're a very mature neighborhood, and I think this is going to bring positive new things to our neighborhood. Please approve this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have a minute and a half left. Good morning.
My name is Bob Tiberia. My wife, Karis, and I have lived at 9531 Pebble Glen Avenue in Pebble Creek for almost 36 years. I expressed our support of GL's redevelopment to Commissioner Hagan last November. He informed us that he had met with all parties involved and encouraged all groups to work together to find a compromise regarding the property. The Save Pebble Creek group is vehemently opposed to any rezoning of the property with no compromise. While we respect their viewpoint, we do not believe they represent more than a small percentage of the 1,353 homes in Pebble Creek. Although the property allowing the property to remain undeveloped would most not certainly be in the best interest of the community as a whole in terms of decreased property values, safety, security, and appearances. We find GL Homes' plan to be reasonable, appropriate, and more than comparable to what currently exists in Pebble Creek. There would be no multifamily units. Proposed 251 homes would be far less than what could be built. There would be no walls separating the new development from existing homes. Homes that currently border the golf course would all have water views. The proposed neighborhood enhancements and projected pricing of the new homes would absolutely increase property values for existing residents. If rezoning is not approved at this time, we believe that likely it would be in the future. Our concern is that a lesser builder would be unwilling to compromise, more likely to build closer to the allowed density, that homes would be smaller and of lower value, creating much more traffic and decreased property values for existing residents. In conclusion, we believe that this proposal represents the compromise ultimately that will benefit Pebble Creek community. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. All right, now it's time for opponent testimony. Again, we have a total of 10 minutes, and not sure if you have designated speakers or not, but please be mindful of others that may want to speak. Good morning.
Good morning.
Here's the video.
I'm just going to run a continuous loop of some visuals for you all today. Good morning. My name is Leslie Green. I'm at 9014 Hogan's Bend for 30 years. We are a little grassroots group of very dedicated residents that have united together to protect our neighborhood from what we perceive as negative changes that will affect our lives forever. We don't have deep corporate pockets, and we can't hire slick PR firms for our mailers. And we carpooled here today rather than being provided a full-size bus. I established Save Pebble Creek as a way for residents to be informed. Not only have I been thanked by so many, I have also been sued by the owner in what my lawyers call a strategic lawsuit against public participation. It's meant to silence me and my neighbors. HOA members have been subpoenaed in retribution. With as many here today, I believe there would be so many more to oppose if they were not so afraid of retaliation. It has hurt me and my wallet for over $120,000. This area is already the densest part of New Tampa. The proposed density might be consistent, but we are already the most densest part of New Tampa. So even adding that in, I think total is what should be considered.
Excuse me, ma'am. I just want to confirm that all of those were shown at the zoning hearing master. I know you guys did show some.
All of these?
All of the photos that are scrolling.
Yes, they are on a thumb drive we submitted.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep. They weren't shown, but they are part of public record. I'm sorry, did you ask me if they're shown?
Were they submitted into the record?
They were submitted as public record, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right? Everybody with me? Yep. We submitted them on a thumb drive. It's under Larry Feldman. Am I okay to go?
Yes, please continue.
I mean, yeah, they were submitted. Again, the area is the most densest part of New Tampa. And I want to go on to let you know that this is our first and only house, and we have planned to live here forever. This was meant to be a golf course community, and that is what we bought into. It's unfair for us to lose our investment and the developers to simply move on to the next one. We are outside most every day enjoying the abundant wildlife we are so lucky to have here. We are outside I got that. Honestly, after we're outside, what we typically do is we barbecue. That's kind of how we enjoy our backyard. And honestly, I fear barbecuing during the toxic soil cleanup, and I don't think I can take 4 or 5 years of construction noise. Home is where you come to be comfortable, to get away from the stresses of the day. When asked, why don't I just move if I don't like the proposed soil remediation and development in my backyard? My answer is because this is home. The pie chart you see represents the results of analyzing the letters from the county optics site. We analyzed them, and we came to a total of 727 letters that were submitted by the deadline. There were 487 unique by name with the opposition. The opposition is leading, or did lead, by a landslide of 74 to 26% opposed. And we did not have paid corporate employees to go door to door collecting letters for us. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before we go to the next speaker, can we get clarification on if those, I saw a lot of thumbnail stamps, are those pictures from the community? Or are they just a...
Yeah, please.
We have
Please be quiet or you'll be removed. Ms. Green, continue.
the pictures of the wildlife are all pictures taken inside of Pebble Creek, and they're taken by resident photographer who is here, Larry Feldman.
All right, please continue.
Good morning. My name is Emma Zimborski, and I reside in Pebble Creek. My opposition today is in regard to the soil remediation and relevant case law. As of today, there is no remedial action plan approved by the state of Florida DEP, a requirement for soil remediation. Without this remediation, the rezoning project cannot even begin. Why is this of my concern? Because some of the arsenic levels read upwards of 11 times over the allowable EPA target levels, and dieldrin, a chemical that could be airborne and water-soluble, read upwards of 24 times over the legal limit. And this plan involves blending new and old soil for these brand new homes. I'm asking you from an ethical standpoint, not a legal standpoint. How could this rezoning application be approved today without knowledge of a soil remediation plan? Per the cases of Bomb Road Investment versus the Hillsborough County BOCC, Pinellas County versus Richmond Group of Florida, and Graham et al. Versus Estuary Properties, where there is a legitimate public purpose behind maintaining the existing zoning classification, denial of rezoning is supported even if the request was consistent with the comprehensive plan. Furthermore, where there is sufficient evidence of an adverse environmental impact, legitimate general welfare concerns and fact-based concerns are valid, and therefore proposed development should not be permitted. Pollution preventions are legitimate concerns within the police power, and the owner of private property is not entitled to the highest and best use of that property if that use could create a public harm. This rezoning request is not feasible nor favorable for public health, safety, welfare, or morals. And I have my 4-month-old daughter here today. My final question to you is, how do I explain to her that she can't go outside in the backyard and play for the next 3 to 5 years? Because I did not sign up for that 2 years ago when I purchased my home. This has become a matter of profit over people, and today I am asking you, please choose people over profit. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Paul Leverton. We live at 9204 Regents Park Drive.
For many years, there seemed to be no argument in how best to utilize such lands, build more houses. However, other uses are in play, and I want to talk about one of those, that of keeping as much green space as possible. Until a few years ago, the main argument for such was purely aesthetic. However, there was a growing body of evidence that green space in urban areas is a real contributor to both good physical and mental health, especially for older residents. One recent study of 250,000 elderly persons in the Miami area linked access to green space to improved heart health. I keep up with the relevant literature, having spent most of my life in the study in the causes of chronic diseases as an epidemiologist. In fact, I was director of epidemiology of heart health at the National Institutes of Health before moving to USF and settling in Pebble Creek in 1985. We are not on the golf course, but enjoy our walks on the fringe, often seeing sandhill cranes and other wildlife there. We hope you will consider the advantages of keeping as much green space as possible during your deliberations. Perhaps more time is needed to develop a walking park, such as being done in many communities facing this same issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm Chandler Horkman, and I'm a resident of the Links at Pebble Creek. I moved here to pursue my clinical
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just didn't catch your name. I need to confirm whether you're a party of record. Did you speak at zoning hearing master or?
Of course.
You spoke at the zoning hearing
It's
master?
Chandler Horkman, H-O-R-K-M-A-N.
Chandler.
Am I good? I'm a resident of the Links at Pebble Creek, and yeah, I moved here to pursue my clinical doctorate at USF. And since I've been here, I've realized that Pebble Creek is the best neighborhood I've ever called home. It provides safety, tranquility, and a beautiful green space right outside our windows, and it's perfect as is. However, there is one singular disruption to our peaceful life here: the landowner and his constant temper-fueled outbursts and misinformation campaigns. Let's be honest, there's only one group down there dressed for construction work. You want to invest in us? Maybe next time just invest in some dockers for your guys. Every day, I have to find solace after a long day with very complicated patients because it's hard, and I unwind with the whooping of the cranes and on my patio. And if I lose that, I'm going to leave the neighborhood. I don't want that to be supplanted by bulldozers and construction. We're going to lose those animals. I've experienced the negative impact of construction before during my undergraduate education. Living near a construction site wreaked havoc on my grades, mental health, and motivation to complete my studies. The noise pollution disrupted my ability to study at home, and I was constantly awakened by early morning bulldozers, which will happen because it's hot and they're going to start early. So we have to consider alternatives. I urge you to reject this rezoning proposal. Let's protect our neighborhood, preserve our wildlife, and prioritize the well-being of the residents who have worked hard to create this wonderful community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker. We have about 2.5 minutes left.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Fred Pierce, and I live at 18919 Fairwood Court with my wife, Lisa. We are against rezoning. We believe that the best use of the land is to be repurposed as a golf course, which can only happen if the golf course remains unzoned for development. I was normally I would be playing golf this morning at Blvd.
I'm sorry, sir, to interrupt you, but again, I just have to reiterate the requirement that anyone who speaks today has to have either placed a letter into the record prior to zoning hearing master, or
I placed a letter and I requested to speak.
Pierce.
P-E-A-R-C-E.
I'm sorry, sir. I just had the spelling as P-I-E, so I was taking the wrong.
I've lived my entire life that way.
I'm sure. Sorry to interrupt you.
You're welcome. Normally I'd be playing golf at Babes of Harris this morning. We have a Tuesday morning game. But previously I'd be playing at Pebble Creek Golf Course. My wife and I purchased our property on Pebble Creek because it was a golf course. We loved it. The issue is redeveloping the golf course really comes down to what you decide. So there've been any number of statements about the golf course will never be open as a golf course. That's up to you. The numbers that we count for people opposed to this rezoning are essentially 75% against, and those are letters that were submitted to the zoning hearing master. So the math is flying all around, 15%, 75%. We can't agree on that. One thing I can agree with my colleagues in blue is that Pebble Creek is the oldest village in New Tampa, and it does need a refresh. We just differ on the proposal. So we're in favor of opposition because we do believe there's a plan for rehabilitating the golf course. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have 1 minute left. Next speaker. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I'm Mike Elliott, and I live at 18908 Fairwood Court in Pebble Creek. I moved to Pebble Creek in 1999. We bought our house in Pebble Creek because it was in a golf course community. I instantly joined the course, and our long-term plan was to live in this house and throughout retirement, enjoying our golf course. I was 46 years old then. I'm 70 now, and have been retired for several years, and the golf course has been closed for 2 years. Pebble Creek is a long-established neighborhood, and the course is its centerpiece. Pebble Creek was bought as a golf course. We feel like it should be sold as a golf course. Please vote no to the rezoning request of 230132. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker has 6 seconds if you want to use it. Okay. This time the applicant has 5-minute rebuttal.
Commissioners, Jake Kramer again. I have one expert, and then I'll conclude.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Brian Moore, I'm with GHD, 5904 Hampton Oaks Parkway, Tampa. I'm an environmental engineer. I have about 26 years of experience, and I deal with transitions like this one, agricultural property or a golf course converted to a residential development. Happens quite a bit throughout the state, as you can imagine. And there is pretty much a well-defined process for that to occur. The chemicals that are used in agricultural uses can often linger in the soil, and that's the case here. In those instances, the Department of Environmental Protection oversees things. It's not necessarily a zoning thing, but more of a permitting issue. And for this site, the DEP is well aware of this. There's been investigations going on, and the typical process is really investigation followed by cleanup and management of anything that's found. The actual testing is ongoing, which will lead to a plan to manage and or clean up anything that is found. And all that'll be done before the development occurs in accordance with state regulations that DEP enforces.
Thanks, Brian. Jake Kramer again. Commissioners, you all know this isn't a popularity contest. There's been a lot of back and forth about who has more people. I think it's fair to say the community is divided. We've tried. We've visited all 1,353 homes in the neighborhood to try to earn their support. The case law says that the evidence in the record, once it shows that we've met the terms of the LDC, the burden actually shifts to the opposition. And they have to show that the existing use of the property is reasonable. Commissioners, do you think this existing use of the property is reasonable and protects property rights? Commissioner Hagan, I know you have constituents on both sides of this issue. I'm glad I'm not in your seat today, but I know you care about this community. We do too. That's why we're not asking for a single use, a single unit that is not already in the PD. There was a lack of neighborhood support, Commissioners, for the previous use. There were only 13 Pebble Creek members of the golf course in 2018, so we didn't have their support back then. Commissioner Cohen, Commissioner Myers, you both always ask us to talk to the community. We've done that. Again, we visited all of these homes. 5 direct mail pieces to all of these homes. We wanted to make sure they understood, and again, we took all of that feedback in almost a year process before we filed the first document with the county. I think that's why you see so many support letters in the record. Commissioner Kemp, I know the environment is a top priority for you. That's why we've ensured that there will be definite improvements, and the post-development, all projects I work on, you know this, I can't say this, but I can for this one, the post-development property will be cleaner and better habitat than it is today. We're going to protect the creek that this community is named after. Commissioner Cepeda, I've heard you talk a lot about transportation and traffic concerns in previous hearings. That's why we limited the density far below what's already in the PD. That's also why we added the multi-use path you heard about and 5 parks available to all Pebble Creek owners, not just the new homeowners, so that we can capture some of those trips and make this neighborhood more walkable. Commissioner Owen, you've said many times that Hillsborough needs high-quality development. GL Homes developed the Valencia project in your district in South County. Personally, I think it set the bar in South County for very high-quality community. And that's what we're trying to do in New Tampa. We'd really like to set the bar, if you'll allow us to, in New Tampa with this community. Commissioner Wastel, you've expressed concerns in past cases about how historically in this county we've crammed too many people into too small of an areas, and that we lack ownership opportunities in this county. GL Homes is committing to a low-density, single-family community. It will provide those ownership opportunities. This is not pack and stack multifamily. This is not high-traffic mixed use, like what just got approved in Pasco County. This is not build to rent. These will be very, very nice homes in a high-end community. Commissioners, the opportunity again today is to provide this neighborhood with certainty. This is a high-quality plan. It was built first and foremost with neighborhood feedback, and it will set an extremely high bar for all future golf course redevelopment in Hillsborough County. And with that, we ask for your approval. We're here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. At this point, we'll hear from the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the residential 4 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area, and it is not located within the limits of a community plan. Objective 1 of the future land use element of the comprehensive plan asserts that Hillsborough County shall proactively direct new growth into the urban service area with the goal that at least 80% of all population growth will occur within the urban service area during the planning horizon of the comprehensive plan. Future Land Use Element Policy 1.2 requires that all new development or redevelopment occur at a density of at least 75% of the allowable density of the future land use category. The subject site's future land use category is residential 4, which would allow for the consideration of up to 599 units for the subject property. Future Land Use Element Policy 1.2 would require that the applicant to develop at least 449 dwelling units on the subject site, which would not be compatible with the existing development pattern within 1,000 feet of the site. This compatibility factor is considered as one of the criteria under Future Land Use Element Policy 1.3, which permits residential development below the 75% minimum density standard. Therefore, the proposed total of 251 dwelling units is consistent with policy direction related to minimum density. Additionally, Future Land Use Element Policy 1.4 establishes compatibility guidelines that outline the characteristics of uses and activities which allow them to be located near each other in harmony. The north inlet of the subject site is directly adjacent to a public or institutional use which is currently operating as a Hillsborough County wastewater treatment plant. The predominant character of the surrounding area is residential in nature, with a mixture of multifamily and single-family dwelling units interspersed throughout. The planned development's proposed density and single-family residential use are compatible with those that currently exist surrounding the subject site and in the immediate vicinity, and are therefore consistent with the intent of Future Land Use Element Policy 1.4. The proposed modification, or the proposed plan development, is consistent with Future Land Use Element Objective 16 and its accompanying policies related to neighborhood protection. The site plan includes open space areas and stormwater retention ponds that act as buffering mechanisms around the perimeter of the subject site. The applicant has also agreed to retain the existing vegetation between the proposed emergency access road and existing lots located on the east portion of the site. These measures will help to ensure compatibility and the gradual transition between the subject site and the surrounding area uses. The proposed residential density will reflect the character of the existing neighborhood and will be compatible with the surrounding development pattern through these techniques. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Zoning Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master considered the request for major modification 23-132, a request for major modification of existing plan development. The 586-acre Pebble Creek plan development is currently approved for single-family and multifamily residential, recreational, and commercial land uses, and a golf course with clubhouse. The modification request to allow the redevelopment of the golf course site with 251 single-family detached homes and parkland uses. No PD variations or waivers are requested as part of the major modification request. Therefore, compliance with all applicable county and state regulations will be required. Zoning hearing master noted that testimony in support was provided during the hearing and submitted into the record, focusing on the fact that the existing golf course is closed and the site is becoming overgrown and an eyesore. Residents expressed their support of the modification based on the commitment of the developer to provide additional ponds, trees, pedestrian pathways, and parks. Residents also testified that they believe their property values will increase as a result of the project development. Testimony in opposition was provided at the zoning hearing master and also submitted into the record. Objections were based on the lack of approval of the soil remediation plan, overcrowding at neighborhood schools, incompatibility with the surrounding development, and safety concerns caused by an increase in traffic. The applicant's representative testified that neither the plan development nor any title documents restrict the use of the subject property to a golf course in perpetuity. The zoning hearing master found that the proposed parks and site plan design that includes developing the single-family homes internal to the site and providing a ring of stormwater ponds and significant open space along the perimeter will serve to increase compatibility with the neighboring residential homes. The zoning hearing master concluded that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development code and recommended approval.
All right, thank you. We'll go into board discussion. Commissioner Myers?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I know we all have received numerous of emails and phone calls on this particular project. I mean, there are just too many to count. But I would like to ask Jake to come back up, and while you come in, Jake, Commissioner Hagan, I know this is in your district, and I'd like to hear from you. And I got to pull this off for Commissioner Owen, who always say, oh, whose district, and have a conversation first. But Jay, go back to the proposed, what Pebble Creek looked like today, the golf course. Yeah, right there, thank you. Is the owner here? Is the owner of the property? Is he here in the chamber? Okay. Well, when you look at this piece of property, most people that are selling their properties, they keep upkeep until such time. Hold it, I'm the speaker at this time, please. Thank you all so much. Most people will upkeep their property trying to sell it. And even though the owner wants to sell to GL Home, but when you look at the piece of property, it is truly an eyesore in the community. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Hagan, since you're the district chair for this event, not the chair, but this represents your district. I'd like to hear from you first.
Okay, do you have any other questions for Mr. Kramer?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Myers. I first want to thank everyone who came down this morning, in addition to the folks in the room, and we also have a overflow crowd downstairs, and there are many others that are virtual listening online. I also want to thank those that called our offices, like Commissioner Myers stated, and and sent emails regarding this project that would undoubtedly not only impact, but drastically change the fabric of your neighborhood. Regardless of your position on this rezoning application, thank you for sharing your comments and concerns and being engaged in the process. Candidly, I do not recall another rezoning request that generated so much feedback. In fact, we've got like 3 binders like this full of material and emails and correspondence reflecting such. According to the clerk, we received over 1,300 emails on this application, and I think this is just a testament to just how passionate you are about your neighborhood and why Pebble Creek is such a wonderful community. My appreciation for Pebble Creek goes back to 1984 when I first drove a classmate home from Chamberlain High School to Pebble Creek after a football game. It seemed like we were driving forever at the time, and not only did I find this enclave and golf course near the county line, but I also discovered a drag racing route on Bruceby Downs that we use quite often. And that's true. I told that story to my dad years ago, and he said that they did as well. But I've been playing golf there since 1986. Was your neighbor in Cross Creek for 6 years, and have represented the community for a very long time. So I personally know what a special neighborhood you have. While the surrounding neighborhoods are newer and are very nice, frankly, they do not have the same sense of community as Pebble Creek. Commissioner, since first being elected, I've worked closely with this neighborhood to protect and improve their quality of life, from opposing intrusive development to a brownfield designation, to fighting for funding to resurface the neighborhood. I fought hard for this community. And since I mentioned the resurfacing, staff admittedly has been moving a little slow, but the good news is Regents Park and Pebble Creek Drive resurfacing should be completed within the next couple months. And I'm working on funding to resurface the neighborhood streets. Thought this was a good time to share that news, since it's probably the best opportunity to do so. Apologize for the delay, but again, it'll be resurfaced here very shortly. Candidly, seeing how the request has divided the neighborhood is extremely disconcerting to me. At the same time, the request is very challenging for me because I have friends on both sides, so I fully understand the positions both for and against the proposal. I do commend the applicant for their outreach. Clearly, they went above and beyond engaging the neighbors, and I will give them credit for that. But after studying the backup and giving the request a considerable amount of thought and reflection, I oppose the application and will do my best here in the next minute or two to share the basis for my opposition and the motion for denial. We've heard various numbers or percentages as far as supporters, opponents. The applicant states that based on their knocking on doors that 85% do not oppose. All I can say is that our correspondence from the neighbors suggest otherwise. Of the 1,363 emails that we received, 1,090 opposed the request, which is 80%, and 273, or 20%, support the application. According to the county attorney's office, when broken down by individuals who are part of the record, we've heard from 446 people, of which 388 oppose and 58 support, representing 87% in opposition, 13 in support. Now, admittedly, I've not read every email that's come in. However, it appears that much of the project support is based on the belief that the golf course is no longer operational and the property is overgrown and has deteriorated but beyond repair. And some support the request based on claims that this proposal is the best the community is going to get. Now, many who oppose the application do so because they feel that time and again the owner has made decisions not based on what's best for the community, but instead what's best for his bottom line. Now, I'm the first one to admit he has every right to act in this manner. I'm a proud property rights supporter and a capitalist. The owner is entitled to make money and to make this request. Now, I do not remember a whole lot from my MBA days many years ago. I'm sure Commissioner Wostel recalls those days more vividly since he was in graduate school much more recently than me. However, I recall the goal of business is to maximize shareholder wealth, which I agree with. However, to me, when a business is right smack in the middle of a neighborhood that was created as a result of this business, this effectively makes the business a community partner. And my problem is when the business goals run contrary to what's in the community's best interest. Again, the owner is completely entitled to make the request, but it doesn't make it right. And judging by the overwhelming number of neighbors who oppose this application, they certainly do not feel it's in the best interest of the community. Now, I understand there are neighbors who support this request, feel the development will improve the neighborhood, and we have a number of them here today. But again, in my opinion, some feel this way due to the present condition of the course and or concern there's either no other option or of concern with what would be built there if this petition is denied. Now, I base my opinion, at least in part, in emails in the backup, which references or characterizes claims of spiteful tactics, intimidation, vindictiveness, innuendo, and fear-mongering by the owner. Even the letter the owner sent to the residents is strongly worded. It states, "This plan is the best that the community will see." It goes on to say, if not approved, it leads to the second choice, a vacant, overgrown, fenced-in property for potentially many years to come. Other information to back up reference the fact that the owner sold everything associated with the golf course and has intentionally allowed the course to deteriorate to the point where it is an overgrown eyesore, even going as far as to rip up and destroy parts of the sidewalks on the course and erecting a hideous spray-painted sign over the marquee golf course sign. And what is probably the worst thing to me, and it was stated this morning, is that he went to the extent of trying to silence the opposition by suing the community activist who's led the charge in opposition to this request. Now, I've been involved in many heated campaigns, but this is incredible. I mean, I don't know about anyone on this board, but that is unheard of to me. And as much as we may or may not like activists, they provide checks and balances and are an integral part of the political system. One other thing I'd like to mention, because it was stated in the ZHM and it also came up today during public comment, is the threat that if this application does not pass, the alternative will be affordable housing as a result of the Live Local Act. I want to say that as soon as that legislation passed, I immediately got on the phone with Adam Gormley and asked, would this legislation apply to Pebble Creek in particular and to similar golf course developments in general, because unfortunately we may go down this path in the future. And he said, in his opinion, the legislation would not apply to Pebble Creek, and he would deny any permit requests that came in under this legislation. I know this neighborhood. I've always stood with the neighborhood, and will once again by voting against the petition. But my motion to deny, and I'm going to pass the gavel to Commissioner Myers, is based on the fact that the application is inconsistent with the comp plan, specifically as outlined in Objective 16, Neighborhood Protection. It states, the neighborhood is the functional unit of community development. There is a need to protect existing neighborhoods and communities and those that will emerge in the future. To preserve, protect, and enhance neighborhoods and communities, all new development must conform to the following policies, 16.8, 16.10, as well as policies 1.4, 8.1, and 8.2. Now, the applicant states that this is an ideal infill location, which is supported in the comprehensive plan, and goes on to characterize this property as sort of a hole in the donut with the neighboring projects mostly built out. Now, I feel this is a mischaracterization of the property and is a common argument made by petitioners to marginalize the comp plan policy regarding the need to maintain the integrity of a neighborhood's design. It's not an ideal infill location because, unlike most infill requests, the property in question is not unbuilt or an empty lot surrounded by development. This scenario is different because the entire neighborhood, including the golf course, make up the PD. This logic would apply if the property was not in the PD and was simply an open lot with subdivisions around it. Then it would be a true infill location. But that's not the case here. There's a golf course that's not only in the middle of the PD, but is a central element of the neighborhood. Additionally, as was pointed out earlier, the golf course was built 5 years prior to the approval of the Pebble Creek PD. So the neighborhood was built around this large open space and golf course that was already constructed. And I use the term open space and golf course somewhat interchangeably because the property is owned only for open space or golf course. In other words, this golf course open space was integral to the neighborhood design and is essential to the existing community. And by changing the center of the community, by removing the golf course, you're removing the central element and by definition are changing the nature of the community, effectively changing the entire culture of the neighborhood. Policy 16.10 states that any density increase shall be compatible with existing proposed or planned surrounding development. It goes on to state elements affecting compatibility include height, scale, and the term and mass and bulk of new structures. By replacing the golf course and large open space with additional density and mass and bulk of new structures, you simply do not maintain the character of the existing development. All of these points illustrate why this request is inconsistent with the comp plan and thus why the application should be denied and is the basis for my motion to deny.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a motion by Commissioner Hagan, second by Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Owen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first to the community, usually everyone's in the room for my district, so Commissioner Hagan. And I just want to first commend everybody, too, for showing up. You know, some of my colleagues always point out I'm a new commissioner, but I've done HOA law for a long time, and it's probably can be the second most dangerous room to walk in besides the school board. And the reason for that, though, is because you all really have more in common than you don't. You are all passionate about your community. That's the reason that you're here, and that's the reason you're so passionate about that. So I would say whatever decision happens here today to really rest on that you all have a very vibrant, amazing community, and to let bygones be bygones. It's easy for me to say, but I really commend you all for being here today and showing up. You know, Mr. Chairman, I find this is kind of a first possible domino in a lot of golf courses that are suffering right now in Hillsborough County, particularly my district, in South County and East County. It's becoming an epidemic that golf courses are facing a lot of struggles. And I really think it's because there's so many more activities than like pickleball and bocce ball and all these games that everybody's playing that the golf course business is suffering. That being said, you know, it is a business, and they did have those original entitlements. If I open an ice cream shop or I have a law firm, if my business fails, I've got to sell it. I got to exercise a chapter of bankruptcy, or I got to find a means. This, I think, is an interesting way to go about to redevelop it and actually get a windfall in a way through development, which was not the original entitlements. That being said, I do Mr. Kramer's point to this particular developer, GL Homes. He's absolutely right. They build a wonderful community, a beautiful community. But listening to how well articulated the chair and Commissioner Myers, you're absolutely right. I will 95% of the time defer to the district-specific commissioner because they're accountable to the voters. But this is a difficult situation, and moving forward, I think that this, you know, granted, community plans may play a role in some other decisions that we make around the county, but I think that's well said and well articulated by the chair in this particular situation. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Watson.
I think that it's been spoke towards several times today, and earlier today we voted on an item that had been denied in the past. Many of you might not know, and it was denied for specific reasons that actually had more entitlements of the same reason it was denied several years ago. And the fact of the matter is that when it comes to development, what a no today might not mean what you think it means. I think that we're at a serious disadvantage in that we're downplaying the Live Local Act that was mentioned in the record, that it is believed that this specific site would meet the standards that are set forth in it. And we factually, we don't know. We don't know what that is going to be defined as. It just hasn't been tried in court yet, hasn't been tried in development yet. We don't know what that's going to mean. Right now, this developer could double up what they currently have on my estimations, almost. I believe that they could be almost at 200% of what they're currently developing, and they've chosen to go at half of that amount. I believe that you could have pack and stacked apartments in your backyard. You might get a short-term win today, and you get a long-term lose a couple years from now. And for those reasons, I will not be supporting the motion to denial. I believe that there's too much risk involved with the Live Local Act that could result in serious 3-4-story apartments that would be categorized as affordable housing. So I will not be supporting the motion to denial today.
Thank you. Commissioner Coyne.
Thank you very much. And I listened with great interest to the chair's comments, and I do tend to try to be deferential to district commissioners who do know their districts better than the rest of us do. There's no question about that. But in this particular case, I find myself agreeing with Commissioner Wastall, and I would say something else. We have competent, substantial evidence in the record from all 3 prongs of our review, from the Planning Commission, from the staff, and from the zoning hearing master, finding consistency here. And I was struck by something that someone said in the proponent testimony about imagining yourself in this situation. You're a homeowner and you're looking at this proposal. And from when I put myself in that position, I must tell you, I believe I would favor this if I lived in the neighborhood. I think it provides a lot more than is likely, as Commissioner Wastall said, to be included if there's a redevelopment proposal in the future. There's an awful lot of land preserved here. I think these water features are a really nice buffer from the property. And my sense of the opposition and the proponents is there has been so much correspondence related to this application that it's been difficult to really determine the exact amount of support and opposition on either side. But for the reasons outlined and for what Commissioner Wastall said, I actually am not going to support the motion either.
Thank you. Commissioner Kemp.
Thank you. I just want to, our attorney in this regard that Commissioner Hagan asked about, and who is analyzing the Live Local Act for us, can you speak to the record about that question by Commissioner Hagan and tell us what, in unincorporated county, what zoning categories are open to that, and if that would be possible?
So, Commissioner, the Live Local Act applies to land that's zoned for commercial or industrial use or mixed use. Based on review of that and review of other definitions in Florida statutes, as well as Chapter 163, I believe that this land does not qualify as commercially zoned, industrial zoned, or mixed use zoned as it's used in the Live Local Act, and based on that belief would not be, would not approve or move forward an application based on Live Local for this site.
I'd also like to know, because there was talk of the soil remediation, and I know we had some addressing of that, but from staff, how does that work?
So, Commissioner, there will be a, to the extent there's contamination in the soil, that would be an issue within the jurisdiction of the Department of Environmental Protection. So the county regulates land alteration, moving of land. However, the remediation of the pollutants would be in the jurisdiction of Department of Environmental Protection. So any actions that were taken to disturb, remove, or mix the soil would need to be done consistent with those DEP regulations. And that I would agree that that would be an element that would be done at the permitting stage.
Okay, I just wanted to
disturbing the soil.
hear that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hagan.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. And I'll be very brief. I do share Commissioner Wolstall's concerns regarding the Live Local Act. If the board will recall, that's why I brought it up to the board and asked staff to come back with a report on the legislation and its potential impacts to Hillsborough County. It was supposed to be on last week's board agenda. Staff asked to defer it because of other items we had, so it's going to be on our next agenda that we'll discuss the Live Local Act. But it's also why I asked Adam when he came up, hey, does this apply here? And once he gave me his opinion, I was comfortable with that. I do agree with Commissioner Wilson on one thing, and that it will definitely be litigated one way or the other moving forward. I'm sure there'll be various projects with respect to that legislation that are going to have to ultimately be determined in the court. So I do agree with him on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, I believe it was well said by the chairman, and I agree also with Commissioner Wolstall as well. But with the current homeowners, and having said all the constituents that wrote in, all the correspondence were many, but the largest majority were actually opposed to it. So for that reason, I will oppose it. So.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Watson.
I guess my last question is we as the government, we can't force the homeowner to sell to another golf course owner, right? We can't force him to do that. Even if the accusations of long-time nefarious games that have been mentioned by Chair Hagan and everyone in the audience are true, even if they are true, we as the government, we can't violate his private property rights and make him say, you're going to only sell to a golf course.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, there's so much risk involved for this community to support this denial that I just can't get on board for it for that reason and that reason alone.
Okay, seeing no other commissioners speak, please report the vote.
Motion carried 4-3. Commissioners Cohen, Myers, and Wolstall voted no.
Okay. Any other items?
I need to change my vote.
Hold on.
I thought I was voting for this.
Hold on.
I thought a yes vote. I'm sorry, the yes vote.
I'm sorry?
Commissioner Myers intended to vote for the application. Can you amend it, or do we need to have reconsideration?
We'll need to reconsider, please.
Okay, can we have a motion to reconsider last vote? Commissioner Kemp, you have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Owen. Please record your vote on reconsideration. Just to reconsider.
Motion carried 5-2. Commissioners Cohen and Wolstall voted no.
And can we go back to the original vote to deny? Please re-record your vote on that.
My vote is yes if it comes up. I can't get it to come up now. My vote is yes.
Could you say that on the microphone, ma'am?
On the microphone.
My vote is yes. I can't get my monitor. Okay, just found it popped up.
Motion carried 5-2. Commissioners Cohen and Wolstall voted no.
All right, thank you. We're adjourned.